Chapter 1899. At this moment, the condition of his body was no longer optimistic. What was even more frightening was that he could already sense that there were quite a few profound death-stage, undead creatures appearing around him, as if they were secretly spying on him. Just a single undead creature was already enough to make him feel as if his life was completely threatened. Furthermore, there were a few profound death-stage, undead creatures gathered around him. It was enough to consign him to eternal damnation. Moreover, as time passed, more and more profound death-stage, undead creatures would be approaching him. There would naturally be more than a few profound death-stage, undead creatures within the entire Dead Soul Abyss. Otherwise, the various large factions would not be so afraid of the Dead Soul Abyss. At this point, no one knew how many profound death-stage, undead creatures there were. This was the reason why they were so frightening. Even for the current Yi Shiwen, a single undead creature was enough to destroy him. Roar! The skeleton demonic beast continued to roar. Its eyes were ice-cold and emotionless. It opened its fleshless lower jaw and let out a long roar. It was about to launch its attack. However, at this moment, it suddenly felt an unprecedented pressure descending from the sky. Even though it was ferocious and tyrannical, it immediately felt a great panic. This feeling was something that it was all too familiar with. This was the feeling of a heavenly tribulation. It suddenly seemed to have realized something and wanted to dodge. However, it discovered that it was already too late. A power had already firmly locked onto it. Roar! With a loud roar, a huge cloud rapidly condensed in the sky. All the dead spirits and ferocious creatures within a radius of thousands of miles were all locked in place. Naturally, Yi Shiwen was also one of them. Almost immediately, he felt that he was locked on by the consciousness of the heavenly retribution. In other words, no matter where he ran, it would be useless. Moreover, the heavenly retribution was initiated by him, so it was impossible for him to escape. Dark clouds covered the sky. Countless bolts of lightning flickered within. It was an extremely frightening sight. This was the consciousness of the heavenly Tao. The appearance of the heavenly tribulation immediately made more and more ferocious undead spirits and ferocious creatures that were rushing over to dodge. They felt the deterrence of the heavenly tribulation almost instantly. These undead spirits and ferocious creatures were born from the darkest energy in the world, so they were most afraid of the heavenly tribulation's power of extreme yang. At this time, they did not dare to approach. Apart from the dead spirits and ferocious creatures that had been enveloped, almost all of them immediately fled. Even the loss of profound, death-stage, undead ferocious beasts was no exception. Forget about profound, death-stage, undead, ferocious beasts. Even if it was a god, if they wanted to defy the heavens, only death awaited them. If they were also locked in, then the power of the heavenly tribulation would increase by several times, and it would be enough to completely bury them. This human dares to trigger a heavenly tribulation. How dare you? He's courting death. Does he think that he will have an easy time just like that? Amongst these undead spirits and ferocious creatures, there were some powerful beings that were continuously exchanging thoughts. Some were furious, while others were waiting to watch a good show. However, no matter what, none of them were optimistic about this human. After all, the skeleton demonic beast was involved. With the addition of a profound death stage expert, the might of the heavenly tribulation would increase by several times to match the strength of a profound death stage expert. Wouldn't that mean that he would definitely die? No matter how strong a profound life stage expert was, it was impossible for him to endure the heavenly tribulation of the profound death stage. That would truly be courting death. They could not help but feel some pity. Although this human was only at the profound life stage, the blood aura radiating from his body was something that even many profound death stage experts did not possess. If they could devour him, it would definitely be beneficial for them. They never imagined that they would encounter such a powerful human after returning. However, it was a pity that they were all going to be destroyed by the heavenly tribulation. Looking at the dark clouds in the sky, their eyes were filled with incomparable fear. At the same time, they were extremely terrified. Countless bolts of lightning were fusing and condensing within the dark clouds, instantly forming 18 types of weapons. Other than these, they also formed various kinds of extraordinary, ferocious beasts. In fact, many of them were ancient ferocious beasts that had already gone extinct. At this moment, their spiritual imprints were pulled back from the long river of history by the heavenly Tao. Upon seeing this, they were no longer just terrified of the heavenly tribulation. Instead, they were completely puzzled by Yi Shiwen. Exactly what kind of monster was this human? This heavenly tribulation was something that they had never seen or heard of before. In fact, they had never seen such a terrifying heavenly tribulation even in their previous lives. All of them were very clear that other than someone who had committed the most heinous crimes, there was only one possibility for someone to cause the heavenly tribulation to change to such a degree. That person was an innately monstrous genius. In terms of heinous crimes, who could compare to them? They had committed all sorts of evil deeds in their lives. However, even when they advanced to the profound death realm, they had never encountered such a terrifying heavenly tribulation. It was simply frightening. At this moment, the entire undead abyss seemed to be enveloped by the endless heavenly tribulation. If it descended, the entire undead abyss would be destroyed in a single day. The number of tribulations in the sky increased, becoming clearer and clearer. They constantly flickered and jumped, as if they wanted to shake the space apart. Roar! At this moment, the skeleton demonic beast made a prompt decision and took the initiative to attack Yi Shiwen. Its intelligence was not low. How could it not understand that the entire heavenly tribulation would only stop if it killed this damned human in front of it? Only then would it have a chance to survive. Otherwise, even if it survived the heavenly tribulation, it could only be devoured by other powerful creatures in the undead abyss. It did not know how many creatures it had devoured in the past. It did not want to end up like this. Therefore, it could only take the initiative and kill this brat first. In any case, Yi Shiwen was only a brat at the profound life realm. Compared to it, there was still a huge gap. Whoosh! The skeleton demonic beast figure appeared in front of it almost instantly. It directly raised its huge bony claws and clawed at Yi Shiwen. At this moment, a violent sound that broke through the sound barrier came from behind it. Moreover, it formed a monstrous sound wave that spread towards Yi Shiwen. However, all of this could not keep up with the speed of the skeleton demonic beast. One could imagine how fast it was. If an ordinary person were to encounter it, they would probably die tragically in an instant. However, at this critical moment, Yi Shiwen finally reacted. The yin-yang diagram of life and death above his head immediately protected him. Bang! There was only a loud boom. Yi Shiwen, who was wrapped in the yin-yang diagram of life and death, was directly slapped away. His entire body flew out like a cannonball. Even though the yin-yang diagram of life and death had absorbed most of the terrifying power from the skeleton demonic beast slap, the portion that landed on Yi Shiwen's body still sent him flying. Yi Shiwen's body seemed to be on the verge of bursting apart. The surface of his body was like porcelain, and numerous cracks began to appear on it. It seemed as if his body would explode in the next second. However, this skeleton demonic beast did not stop. It knew that Yi Shiwen was actually not dead. The most direct evidence was the tribulation clouds in the sky. They did not show any signs of dissipating. On the contrary, they had become even denser. Based on this alone, it could be seen that not only was this human not dead, he was also very tenacious. It was about to launch its next wave of attack. However, at this time, the heavenly retribution did not give it a chance to advance further. Boom! All of a sudden, the first lightning weapon directly struck down. It was not aimed at Yi Shiwen, but at the skeleton demonic beast. It was the strongest. It was tacitly recognized as a troublemaker. Naturally, it would be the first to receive punishment. Bang! There was a loud boom. The huge body of the skeleton demonic beast was directly sent flying, just like how it had sent Yi Shiwen flying. The power of the heavenly retribution had already climbed to the level of the profound death realm. In other words, even profound death realm experts could die in it. This skeleton demonic beast was no exception. Roar! It roared towards the sky. It roared continuously. However, it could not do anything. The tribulation clouds in the sky were continuously becoming denser. Either Yi Shiwen died, or he had passed the heavenly retribution. Only these two possibilities could stop the heavenly retribution. Crash! A violent sound of something breaking through the air could be heard. It covered all other sounds. Then, the entire sky was densely covered with various weapons. The heavenly retribution had covered the entire sky in an instant. Every living being in this world was contained within it. The space had been completely destroyed by the heavenly retribution. Countless parts of it had collapsed. Many profound life realm, and even profound life realm ferocious creatures were killed in an instant. They instantly turned into a cloud of green smoke. They did not even have the chance to scream. This was the heavenly retribution of the profound death realm. It was impossible for them to block it. At this moment, many profound death realm ferocious creatures who were watching from afar felt their hearts tremble with fear. It was inconceivable. The heavenly retribution for advancing to the profound death realm had actually climbed to such a level. Even if the skeleton demonic beast was part of it, it would not have become so frightening if it was not for the fact that the heavenly retribution was abnormal. If they were to enter, they would not have fared any better. Just this wave of heavenly retribution was enough to seriously injure them. The human should have already been seriously injured. He should not have died. He was already seriously injured. It was impossible for him to not die under this heavenly retribution. Even that strange picture scroll would not be able to protect him. All the ferocious creatures thought this way. However, they quickly discovered that something was wrong. If Yi Shiwen had died, the heavenly retribution would have stopped. However, the heavenly retribution did not stop. There was only one possibility. He actually did not die. Chapter 1900. Yes, he wasn't dead. The only possibility was that he wasn't dead. Wallalala! Countless weapons continued to fall from the sky, engulfing everything. At this moment, these ferocious creatures couldn't care less about the possibility of being smashed by the heavenly tribulations. All of them sent their divine senses into the formation. However, he saw that in the center of the endless heavens retribution, a huge array was unfolded horizontally. Endless ghost heart fire flew in the sky, forming a huge array, and surrounded Yi Shiwen in it. Countless heavenly tribulations fell, but were completely smashed into pieces by this formation. They couldn't do anything to Yi Shiwen, who was trapped within. Within this formation, Yi Shiwen obtained a chance to catch his breath. His body also began to reconstruct bit by bit, recovering at an astonishing rate. Bit by bit, he recovered. What an astonishing recovery ability. It was simply shocking. After a while, Yi Shiwen stood up again. He had used up a lot of vitality to recover. A profound death stage expert was just too terrifying. It almost made him collapse in an instant, not to mention the heavenly tribulation that followed. If not for the protection of the Ghost Heartfire formation, he would definitely have died just now. Rumble! The heavenly tribulations landed on the Ghost Heart Flame formation, setting off raging waves. Energy waves swept out as both sides engaged in the most terrifying collision. The scene was extremely shocking. However, his expression didn't improve at all. If this continued, the Ghost Heart Flame formation would completely collapse sooner or later. This was because the Ghost Heart Flame formation couldn't sustain to that extent. Back in the Darkness Master's palace, there were countless complicated dragon veins beneath the palace that provided the energy needed for the Ghost Heart Flame formation to operate. Now, Yi Shiwen had only taken away the Ghost Heart Flame formation. All the energy supply had to be extracted from Yi Shiwen's body. He could feel that all the qi in his body was being extracted at a crazy rate. He was also trying his best to replenish it. However, even so, the consumption far exceeded the speed at which he could replenish it. He didn't dare to delay any longer. He could only end the battle as soon as possible. He looked at the heavenly tribulations above his head, then looked at the profound death stage skeleton demonic beast in the middle of the heavenly tribulations. At this moment, the skeleton demonic beast could not even lift its head after being struck by the heavenly tribulation. A profound death stage, super ferocious beast was nothing in the face of the heavenly tribulation. His entire body was emitting green smoke, and he looked to be in a sorry state. Cracks had appeared on his iron-like bones. If he had flesh and blood on his body, one could already see the scene of his flesh being torn apart. Even a physical body that had been tempered thousands of times was nothing in the face of such a terrifying heavenly tribulation. This skeleton monstrous beast had never seen such a terrifying heavenly tribulation in its life. Even if the heavenly tribulation had increased its level crazily because of it, if it had been a normal heavenly tribulation, even if it had increased its level, it wouldn't have been able to injure it so severely in such a short time. Is this human in front of me a pervert? It was at this moment that it realized in horror that the human in front of it was walking toward it step by step while withstanding the ghost heart flame formation. Every single step he took clashed with countless heavenly tribulations, creating a terrifying tempest that swept out. It was way too terrifying. Boom! 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 A series of violent explosions rang out. Many people who were paying attention to this battle were frightened out of their wits. This ghost heart flame formation was extremely powerful. Even profound death stage experts couldn't block the heavenly tribulation. However, it was actually able to block it completely. There were also some people who knew that there was a ghost heart flame formation in the treasury of the Darkness Master. However, although they had long coveted the ghost heart flame formation in the treasury of the Darkness Master, they had never been able to obtain it. It wasn't that they didn't want to, but they simply couldn't do anything about it. There were even a few existences at the peak of the profound death stage, but they couldn't do anything about it. Now, it had actually been taken away by a human. It was simply unbelievable. There were also many people who revealed greedy expressions. Once this human died under the heavenly tribulation, they would be able to take away the ghost heart flame formation. Their eyes were sharp and astute. Many of them were old monsters who had lived for tens of thousands of years. Plus, with the memories of their previous lives, they were experienced and knowledgeable. How could they not see that the current situation of the ghost heart flame formation could not continue like this? Once the time was up, this damned human would definitely die under the endless heavenly tribulation. It was simply impossible for him to make a comeback. Yi Shiwen walked step by step to the front of the skeleton demonic beast. He was expressionless and incomparably cold. His eyes flickered with killing intent. If it wasn't for this skeleton demonic beast, he wouldn't have been trapped here. This was all because of this skeleton demonic beast. The emergence, immortal exterminating saber appeared in his hand. A shocking murderous aura soared into the sky. Even the lightning heavenly tribulation couldn't stop this shocking murderous aura. This astonishing killing intent had also alerted many of the most powerful beings in the Abyss of Souls. Some old monsters who had been sleeping for tens of thousands of years had woken up at once and sent out their divine thoughts to check it out. I'll take your life with one slash. Yi Shiwen held the emergence, immortal exterminating saber and slashed down. Rip! The saber radiance tore apart the space, forming a raging wave that slashed towards the skeleton demonic beast. The skeleton demonic beast had long been struck by the heavenly tribulation until it couldn't move. It could only forcefully endure the baptism of the heavenly tribulation. At this moment, Yi Shiwen's slash was so fast that it almost cut through all the heavenly tribulation. He simply couldn't dodge it. If he had used this blade in normal times, then unless it was a sneak attack, it would have been impossible for him to hit this skeleton demon beast. However, in such a situation, it had given him the best opportunity to strike. Bang! A loud explosion rang out. In the next instant, the entire body of the skeleton demonic beast was split into two. In an instant, it was engulfed by the endless heavenly tribulation. The once incomparably powerful, profound Death Stage King was instantly turned into ashes. Yi Shiwen immediately used the Great Transformation Technique and instantly grabbed the power of the skeleton demonic beast in his hand to prevent it from being split apart by the heavenly tribulation. Boom! In the instant that the power was digested and devoured, countless pores on Yi Shiwen's body instantly opened up. They split open and endless vitality was spat out. His face revealed an unusually sad expression. He was completely overwhelmed by the shocking power. This was the full strength of a profound death stage expert. Even if the great art transformation technique was unable to completely absorb all of the strength, even a tiny portion of it was already shocking enough. Swoosh! Yi Shiwen instantly felt a terrifying power boiling in his body. He hurriedly guided a portion of it to replenish his Fist Dao incarnation. After the previous battle, his Fist Dao incarnation, which was already weakened, had recovered to its peak state in an instant. Even so, he still hadn't completely digested the power. Even more power was continuously spat out from his pores. Countless amounts of blood also spurted out. That was the result of the capillaries instantly bursting. All the internal organs in his body were bleeding. This was the result of completely exploding due to the power. At this moment, he was somewhat regretful. Why did he only condense a single Fist Dao incarnation? In fact, he could even feel that if he condensed a few more martial Dao incarnations, they would be instantly filled up by the power. However, it was too late to cram at the last minute. He gritted his teeth and could only make a choice. Walala! In an instant, countless heavenly tribulations landed on his body. The ghost heart flame formation had also been completely retracted. When the heavenly tribulations landed on his body, his skin and flesh were split open in an instant. His entire body seemed to have been cooked. There was not a single drop of blood. It was as if he had been completely cooked, or perhaps it was more accurate to say that he had been fried. His entire body was withstanding an incomparably heavy blow. Every single bolt of lightning had the strength of 1,000 caddies, and were as heavy as Mount Tai. However, all of their strength was concentrated at a single point, and when they struck down, one could well imagine how terrifying these bolts of lightning were. On the surface of his body, a vast amount of spiritual ether condensed, propping up a defensive shield, giving him a chance to catch his breath. The moment this defensive shield was propped up, it was bombarded by countless lightning bolts and completely dissipated. Then, even more spiritual ether gushed out from his body, forming a new defensive shield. In this way, it was continuous, and it finally gave him a chance to catch his breath. At the same time, the true essence in his body was being consumed at an even more shocking speed, and it was even more than the true essence required to activate the ghost heart flame formation. However, because he had devoured all the power of the previous skeleton demon beast, he could still hold on at this time. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to hold on by relying on his own power. He could only choose to resist it head-on. Hold on! He continued to clench his teeth and endure. Countless chi continuously struggled and exploded. Although he continuously propped up the chi defensive shield, some of the power would still be transmitted to his body. 1 or 2 bolts were nothing. However, when countless bolts of lightning struck down, he felt as if all the bones in his body were about to be shattered by the terrifying power. It was too terrifying. Even a profound death stage expert might be seriously injured by such a heavenly tribulation. They might even die, let alone him. Therefore, he could only endure and endure. He continued to clench his teeth as he continued to circulate the observing person scripture. The universe within his body was also circulating crazily. He wanted to break into the profound death stage under such circumstances. Even though it was incomparably dangerous, this was his only chance. Only by doing this would he have the chance to leave this place alive. Chapter 1901. Endure. This was the only way for him right now. He could only grit his teeth and endure. Even the slightest bit of carelessness could cause him to be struck to death by the heavenly tribulation. It was impossible for him to survive. Boom! 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 These lightning heavenly tribulations descended like raindrops and turned into weapons. In fact, these were not ordinary weapons. Instead, each of them contained unimaginable martial arts. The iron sword contained countless sword arts. Compared to the previous few ordinary weapons, the power of these heavenly tribulations had increased by leaps and bounds. It was as if countless martial arts experts were using all sorts of weapons and secret techniques to attack Yi Shiwen. They did not give him any chance to survive. However, he had no other choice at this moment. If he could not endure it, he would die. Yi Shiwen continued to attack the profound death realm. Within his body, the yin-yang life and death diagram continuously flew out and rotated above his forehead. It continuously released death energy into Yi Shiwen's body, allowing him to comprehend the mysteries of the death energy. Usually, when profound life realm experts wanted to attack the profound death realm, they would undoubtedly use all sorts of methods to collect some death energy. After that, they would study the death energy and finally step into the profound death realm. With so much death energy gathered all at once, it was no different from courting death. However, the current Yi Shiwen did not have the time to wait. At this moment, he could only fight with his life on the line. Since he was going to die either way, he might as well fight with his life on the line. However, the effects of the death energy were unquestionable. The yin-yang life and death diagram itself could help ordinary people comprehend the way of life and death and advance from the profound life realm to the profound death realm. Originally, Yi Shiwen was not worried at all. With the yin-yang life and death diagram and the mysterious space, it was almost certain that he would advance to the profound death realm. There was no need to be anxious. However, at this moment, he had no other choice but to use this risky method. The death energy was not easy to deal with. If he was completely absorbed, he would not be able to advance to the profound death realm and completely digest the death energy. In the end, Yi Shiwen would be corroded to death by the death energy. Therefore, he was gambling. He was gambling that he could digest the death energy and finally advance to the profound death realm. Otherwise, he would die. There was no other way. Bang! 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 Those old monsters in the Dead Soul Abyss were staring at Yi Shiwen. They were looking forward to his early death. Then, they would be able to snatch the yin-yang life and death diagram from his body. In fact, it wouldn't be a big deal even if this human survived. In any case, they could snatch it again. They had just passed the heavenly tribulation, so they must be in a severely injured state. No one could escape from them. Therefore, at this moment, they were a little anxious and impatient. This human was actually still alive. The lightning tribulation fell down like rain and fell on Yi Shiwen's body. Sometimes, it could even penetrate through the protective cover and hit Yi Shiwen's body, splitting open his skin and flesh. Although these lightning heavenly tribulations were merely mutated lightning tribulations, their might was still frighteningly great. Any random lightning bolt was comparable to an initial profound death stage expert. Although it was not the invincible scene of a peak profound death stage expert unleashing his full power, it was still a terrifying sight. But for those old monsters who were watching from the sidelines, it was enough to make them tremble with fear. In fact, many of them had stayed at the peak profound life stage for many years in order to avoid such a heavenly tribulation. Once it descended, they would basically die. Yet, Yi Shiwen was actually able to withstand such a heavenly tribulation. Moreover, he was still able to hold on until now. Such an existence was definitely an extremely dangerous one. They definitely could not let him escape. At this moment, Yi Shiwen was already completely immersed in the mysterious space and the circulation of the observing person scripture. He wanted to step into the profound death stage. Once he reached the profound death stage, nothing in the outside world would be able to shake him. He was also very clear that he had to reach the profound death stage. Otherwise, he would definitely die without a burial. Moreover, he was only a step away from the profound death stage. He could clearly feel that the originally extremely sturdy barrier of the profound death stage had actually started to crack at this moment. It seemed like it was about to be completely breached very soon. Bit by bit, the power of the profound death stage demonic beast skeleton within his body had yet to be completely digested. At this moment, he was completely making use of it. He organized wave after wave of attacks and attacked the barrier of the profound death stage. Yi Shiwen did not know how much time had passed. There was no sun or moon in the mountains, and there was no time when one cultivated. After Yi Shiwen calmed his heart, he only felt that time had passed by extremely quickly. In the blink of an eye, a long time had passed. Boom! Suddenly, incomparably loud booms rang out one after another. A boundless aura swept out from Yi Shiwen's body. His entire body was like a cylindrical storm. Endless waves of aura gushed out from his pores and started to frantically surge outwards, forming a huge storm. In fact, even a large portion of the heavenly tribulation was completely annihilated. The aura on his body continued to grow and grow. Countless power was completely transformed into real yuan in an instant and was absorbed by him. His entire body was like a bottomless pit, continuously absorbing and emitting deathly aura from his body. Just like the skeleton demonic beast earlier, the deathly aura on his body had even caused the surrounding space to distort. The four directions were called the universe, while the past and the future were called the universe. The deathly aura was actually able to distort space and time. One could well imagine how tyrannical it was. The deathly aura had completely condensed, causing Yi Shiwen's entire body to appear as though he had been completely surrounded by the deathly aura. If a fortune teller were to see this, he would definitely be scared to death. How could a person's body contain so much deathly aura? He was simply a dead person who couldn't be more dead. In any case, it was impossible for a living person to contain so much deathly aura. This was precisely the unparalleled might of the profound death stage. After experiencing endless heavenly tribulation, he had finally forcefully broken into the profound death stage. Even though he had done so in a hurry, the solid foundation that he had laid down previously had played an incomparably important role at this moment. Even though he had just stepped into the profound death stage, he did not show the slightest bit of instability. Even more power was instantly digested by him, causing his power to soar. His power could be seen with the naked eye at every second. After a long time, he had finally completely absorbed all the power. At this moment, he had even stabilized his initial profound life stage cultivation in a single breath and was close to reaching the peak of the profound life stage. An ordinary person would need at least a few hundred years or even 1,000 years to reach such a level from the profound death stage. However, he had directly absorbed the power of the skeleton demonic beast, allowing him to save a lot of hard work. If it wasn't for the fact that he had exhausted so much power, it was likely that he would be able to directly reach the peak of the initial profound death stage. Within the profound death stage, the most important thing was comprehension. After comprehending it, one's power could be forcefully accumulated by relying on resources. Yi Shiwen's comprehension was already sufficient. When he had comprehended the ghost heart flame formation, he had already broken into the profound death stage. The only thing he lacked was the accumulation of power. Under normal circumstances, it would have been impossible for him to kill a profound death stage expert, much less absorb all of his power after killing him. This was all a coincidence. However, he had managed to do it with the help of the heavenly tribulation. At this moment, the heavenly tribulation had yet to end. Countless weapons were still continuously descending. When they landed on his body, they were instantly absorbed by him to temper his physical body. After stepping into the profound death stage, his physical body had once again reached a whole new realm. Compared to before, it could not be mentioned in the same breath. After truly reaching the profound death stage, he finally understood how terrifying a profound death stage expert was. Life was a kind of power, so was death. After reaching the profound death stage, one would be able to convert the power of life and death. Even a heavy injury could be instantly converted into the mighty power of life and restore the strength of one's body. The only exception was if one exceeded the limit of what one could convert. Only then could one be killed. In other words, the more powerful a profound death stage expert was, the harder it would be to kill him. The reason why ordinary life would wither was because the power of life would be gradually exhausted and turned into the power of death. It would continuously corrode one's physical body, ultimately causing one's physical body to perish. However, after stepping into the profound death stage, the power of death would also become controllable. In fact, it could even be converted into the power of life, allowing one's physical body to be filled with vitality. This was the true meaning of immortality. When the speed at which the power of life was being consumed and the speed at which the power of death was being converted, one would have stepped into immortality. If there were no unforeseen circumstances, one would be able to live eternally with the heavens and earth. After jumping out of the three realms and out of the five elements, one would no longer be controlled by the power of life and death. One would be a deity, a titled king expert. At Yi Shiwen's current level, he was naturally unable to achieve a balance between the consumption of the power of life and death. The power of death that he could convert was far less than a tenth of the power of death that was converted from the power of life. However, even so, he could sense that he seemed to have begun to struggle free from the shackles of fate. He had taken another crucial step towards the true path of immortality. It was no wonder that the Abyss Demon Master was able to survive from the era of kings until now. Although he was not at the undying stage, he was probably infinitely close to that stage. Otherwise, he would not have been able to survive until now. After stepping into the profound death stage, Yi Shiwen was able to sense how terrifying the Abyss Demon Master was. The distance between him and the Abyss Demon Master made him feel even more anxious. His gaze swept across the heavenly tribulation in the sky and said, "Come." Chapter 1902. His gaze was incomparably resolute. Countless heavenly tribulations landed on his body. However, they were no longer as unstoppable as before. They continuously landed on his body, giving rise to bursts of green smoke. Some even split open his body. However, he was no longer sent flying like before. In a short period of time, he had undergone earth-shattering changes. He was confident that he could survive this heavenly tribulation that had been upgraded to the profound death realm. He actually succeeded. This human is really amazing. It has been countless years since I have seen such an amazing human. I thought that there was no longer such a person in the human race, as expected of one of the few great clans in the myriad heavens. What an unimaginable talent. Even these old monsters who had been in seclusion for many years could not help but exclaim at this moment. Even though they had survived the heavenly tribulation of the profound death realm for countless years, they still felt extremely frightened when they thought about it. It was unimaginable that he could actually survive such a heavenly tribulation. If they were in his shoes, they would have died without a burial place. TSK, but this is just right. The stronger the flesh, the greater the effect if I devour it. I can still live for another 100,000 years. Ha! If I were to take over such a powerful body, I would be able to cultivate again and attack the supreme way of the world. I would not have to bear the body of a vengeful spirit. It's mine. It's mine. I will take this human as my slave. In the future, I will let him attack the eternal way. I will have a deity as my slave. TSK. Many old monsters clamored crazily. After sighing, their eyes became increasingly greedy. In their eyes, Yi Shiwen was no longer a human. Instead, he was a huge heavenly treasure. A heavenly treasure that could move in human form. All of them wanted to bring Yi Shiwen under their control. However, due to the power of the heavenly tribulation, they did not dare to step forward. They had already seen the fate of the skeleton demonic beast that had barged in. How could they dare to be careless? These words fell into Yi Shiwen's ears, and the expression on his face became even colder. These old monsters have long been blinded by greed. They have lost their minds and lost their minds. They actually want to devour me, Yi Shiwen coldly said. A disdainful sneer appeared on the corner of his mouth. Would they dare to rush in? If there's a day that I attain the Tao, I'll definitely wipe out all of you demons and monsters and return peace to the world, Yi Shiwen said and took a step forward. He stepped on the endless golden light and flew towards the exit of the Dead Soul Abyss. However, the heavenly tribulation's clouds had firmly locked onto him and were following him without stopping for even a moment. Roar! 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 Many of the undead and ferocious creatures roared out incessantly. They did not even have the time to dodge. In an instant, they were enveloped by the heavenly tribulation. Then, tragedy befell them as they were completely submerged within the heavenly tribulation. On the other hand, those profound death stage ferocious creatures were able to dodge quickly. Although they were also extremely astonished, their reactions were extraordinarily quick and they were not sucked into it. Although the heavenly tribulation would become even more terrifying once they were sucked into it, these selfish old monsters with ulterior motives would not do such a thing. Seeing Yi Shiwen transform into a ball of golden light and continuously rush towards the exit of the Dead Soul Abyss, the old monsters in the Dead Soul Abyss immediately became anxious. They still wanted to obtain the Ghost Heart Flame formation in Yi Shiwen's body. How could they let him escape at this time? Once he escaped, there would be no chance for them to get a share. In fact, they would not even be able to chase after him. Due to the laws of the entire Dead Soul Abyss, it was impossible for them to leave. They could only rush out with the help of the undead tide. This was because the laws of the Dead Soul Abyss were at their weakest at that time. It was just like how humans needed to breathe. When the Dead Soul Abyss inhaled, they would be sucked back in. When they exhaled, they would have the opportunity to leave. They were all born in the Dead Soul Abyss. They were born with restrictions and could not break free unless they attained the Tao one day. In other words, once Yi Shiwen rushed out, they would have no chance at all. Stop him! Stop him! Immediately, these old monsters shouted in exasperation. Then, they followed after Yi Shiwen. However, it was useless. Even if the profound life realm monsters were enveloped by the heavenly tribulation, they would not be able to make the heavenly tribulation rise again. Moreover, they were instantly drowned and could not stop Yi Shiwen at all. Moreover, the profound death realm monsters that could stop the heavenly tribulation were all sly old monsters who had lived for God knows how many years. How could they do something that would harm themselves and benefit others? Therefore, no matter how much they roared, no one dared to rush into the range of the heavenly tribulation. At this time, as if sensing that Yi Shiwen was trying to escape, the primordial fierce beasts that were soaring in the sky immediately pounced towards Yi Shiwen with their fangs and claws bared. That incomparably powerful aura was incomparably frightening. This was the heavenly tribulation pulling their soul imprints back from the long river of time and using lightning to reconstruct their physical bodies. Therefore, these primordial fierce beasts were alive and did not seem like dead creatures at all. On the contrary, other than the fact that they did not have a physical body, it was equivalent to them being resurrected. Roar! A ferocious dragon was the first to pounce towards Yi Shiwen. To be exact, it was a flood dragon. Its entire body was covered with golden scales, and it emitted a tyrannical aura. It was unknown how many creatures it had slaughtered in the valley to have such a terrifying aura. Ordinary people would be completely dispirited when facing such a tyrannical pressure. They would not be able to resist at all. However, Yi Shiwen's mind was suppressed by the enlightening mind ancient tree. Therefore, he was not affected in the slightest. Swoosh! This ferocious dragon roared, and a dragon claw directly tore down. It was the most authentic dragon claw hand. Although it was a simple claw, it contained the most authentic martial arts principles. He was also a supreme master of the martial Tao. Bang! Yi Shiwen punched. The astonishing fist energy directly tore apart the dragon claw that was condensed from lightning on the spot. In an instant, it collapsed in the void and turned into energy that filled the sky. Grabbed! Yi Shiwen formed a big hand and directly grabbed all the energy into his body. He continuously replenished the energy that he had just consumed. Gilded Tyrant form was even more powerful than the rumored dragon body. Not to mention, it was just a dragon body condensed from lightning. It could not block Yi Shiwen's punch and directly collapsed. This ferocious dragon roared and absorbed the lightning in the sky. It actually wanted to recondense a dragon claw. Although it was not comparable to a real dragon body, it had a stronger point, and that was the endless recovery ability. However, how could Yi Shiwen give it such an opportunity? He directly grabbed a golden sword in his hand. Swoosh! The sword light blotted out the sky and formed a mighty Sword Tao river. Endless Sword Tao principles were constantly floating up and down in it. Its power was infinite. Bang! The sword light chopped this ferocious dragon and split it into two halves on the spot. Then he did not wait for this ferocious dragon to recondense. He directly launched the great art of dissipation on the spot and absorbed the lightning torrent into his body. Previously, Yishuan had almost been forced to self-destruct by absorbing the power of a skeleton demonic beast. The meridians in his body had almost exploded. However, now that he had stepped into the profound death realm, the meridians in his body had expanded by an unknown number of times. All of a sudden, it had become a bottomless abyss. Even if he completely absorbed this ferocious dragon, it would not be able to fill the empty space in his body. Yi Shiwen immediately felt that the capacity of his martial power after breaking into the profound death realm had increased by a lot. It was much better than the empty state earlier. He could absorb endless martial power. At this moment, he could only feel waves of power boiling within his body, causing his blood to boil. At this moment, the ferocious beasts in the void had already completely pounced down. They bared their fangs and brandished their claws. They opened their bloody mouths and wanted to devour Yi Shiwen. They directly blocked all of Yi Shiwen's escape routes and surrounded him in an extremely small space, not giving him a chance to escape. This was the heavenly retribution not giving him a chance. It wanted him to face the heavenly retribution head-on. How could it be so easy to take advantage of the heavenly retribution? It was simply impossible to take advantage of it. However, Yi Shiwen was not in a hurry. He circled around these ferocious beasts. The wind and thunder wings behind his back spread out. His speed was extremely fast, and he simply turned into an afterimage. Even in the midst of these ferocious beasts, he was able to maneuver smoothly. It was very difficult for these ferocious beasts to catch him. At the same time, he displayed various martial arts, fist techniques, sword techniques, blade techniques, all kinds of tyrannical martial arts were displayed in his hands. He didn't care about what kind of martial arts he used at all. He even threw away his moves and directly used the martial arts laws to attack. He was precise and didn't make any unnecessary movements. He directly bombarded the weak points of these fierce beasts. After blasting these ferocious beasts into a ball of energy, he completely absorbed it. Every time he killed a ferocious beast and absorbed the energy, he would become slightly stronger. He did not become weaker as he fought. On the contrary, he became stronger as he fought. After he had completely absorbed all the martial power, he even began to condense the martial arts incarnation of the profound death realm. A huge amount of energy turned into martial power and was absorbed into his martial arts incarnation. His martial arts incarnation also began to continuously increase its martial power. As the martial arts incarnation strength continued to increase, Yi Shiwen, who had fused with the martial arts incarnation, also became increasingly tyrannical. The speed at which he killed these ferocious beasts increased, forming a virtuous cycle that shocked the world. The old monsters in the Dead Soul Abyss were even more dumbfounded. They had seen ferocious and invincible tribulations before. However, they had never seen such an inhuman method of crossing the tribulations. Not only was he not afraid of the heavenly retribution, but he also transformed the heavenly retribution into resources. This was unheard of and unseen. Chapter 1903. Bam! 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 A series of loud booms rang out as the lightning beasts were blown up by Yi Shiwen. Even profound death stage existences couldn't display any ferocious might in front of Yi Shiwen. They were nothing in front of him. After being blown up by a single punch, they didn't even have the time to reform before they were completely absorbed by him and turned into his resources. He slaughtered his way out. These lightning beasts, which could have posed a fatal threat to him, couldn't even stop his footsteps at this moment. His strength had undergone a tremendous change after he had also advanced to the initial profound death stage. At the same time, above the abyss of the dead souls, dozens of figures were floating above the abyss of the dead souls, which was covered by an endless deathly aura. Every one of them had a strong aura, like an invisible mountain. Just by looking at them, one would feel an invisible, terrifying pressure. These dozens of figures were all peak profound life stage experts. They were wearing the uniform of the Divine Union and floating in the air, had ice-cold expressions and a strong killing intent. The one leading them was the purple-robed, middle-aged man from the Divine Union that Yi Shiwen had seen previously. Behind him were three men of different ages. They were dressed in the robes of the Divine Union and had arrogant expressions on their faces. They looked down on everyone else. You've cultivated for so many years. Could it be that you've been living like a dog? You can't even match up to a young junior. The young man among the three said coldly. The purple-robed, middle-aged man smiled brightly and didn't dare retort. He was very clear about the status of these three people in the Divine Union. He was one of the talents that his master had recruited. If he really killed him, no one would have any objections. Even though he was only one level away from them, the difference between the peak profound life stage and the profound death stage couldn't be calculated with logic. Not only was there a huge difference in strength, but there was also a huge difference in the Divine Union. Although they were also elders, they were just unorthodox elders. On the other hand, these three people were intersect elders. Although they were only one level apart, it wasn't the same thing. Even the dozens of peak profound life stage experts present had to listen to the arrangements of these three people. In the sky above the abyss of dead souls, streams of divine wills swept over and scanned the dozens of people, spying on them. The people of the Divine Union turned a blind eye to this. They were simply indifferent and didn't even care about these spying. I'm afraid that the Divine Union is truly enraged this time. Although a large number of experts have left, the Tian and Xiao elders have stayed behind. These three old fellows are not good people. Although they are only at the initial profound death stage, they are vicious and merciless. Back then, they weren't exterminated. Instead, they were recruited by the leader of the Divine Union. Over the years, I wonder how many famous enemies they have eliminated for the Divine Union. That's right. It's not just the three Tianxiao elders. Do you see those people as well? These aren't ordinary peak, profound life stage experts. They are members of the Sky Punishment Battle Team. What does the Sky Punishment Battle Team mean in the Divine Union? TSK. Even a profound death stage expert will die if he is surrounded by these peak profound life stage experts. He can forget about escaping. That's right. All these years, the Divine Union Sky Punishment Battle Team has eliminated countless forces that have opposed the Divine Union. Their notoriety is enough to make all the children in the world cry at night. However, I'm afraid that Yi Shiwen won't be able to escape from such a lineup. TSK. Such a lineup was actually used to deal with a junior. What's wrong with that? Yi Shiwen is also an extremely daring person. It's said that he has some connections with the martial sect. The Divine Union has suffered miserably at his hands this time. Not only were many profound life stage experts slaughtered, but they even lost a peak profound life stage expert. It's said that even the leader of the Divine Union is furious at such a huge loss. If it wasn't for that matter, which resulted in the Divine Union mobilizing a large number of experts, I'm afraid that peak profound death stage experts would have come to deal with him. No matter what, it's a pity. From the news that has spread, Yi Shiwen is undoubtedly not a simple person. At such a young age, the peak profound life stage experts of the Divine Union were no match for him. He actually managed to beat them in such a sorry state. His strength is unimaginable. Didn't they say that he had already condensed a martial path incarnation? This kind of strength can be ranked among the top experts of the younger generation in the world. It's a pity that he died in such a manner. Otherwise, he might have a place on the Tao validation list in the future. However, almost a day has passed, and there's still no movement in the abyss of dead souls. There's still no sign of Yi Shiwen coming out. I'm afraid that he didn't manage to retreat in time and was swallowed by those monsters in the abyss of dead souls. At this point, the bodies of the scouts suddenly trembled. When they thought about the scene of the overwhelming tide of dead souls returning, even the elite scouts of the various forces felt as if a basin of cold water had been poured over their bodies. That's good too. If he had fallen into the hands of the Divine Punishment Battle Team, he would have been better off dead than alive. They have all sorts of methods to make people wish they were dead. It would have been better if he had been swallowed by those monsters. Someone lamented. Over the years, the illustrious reputation of the Divine Punishment Battle Team had not been boasted. It had been built on the accumulation of countless human lives. After so many years, there were still people who looked down on the Divine Punishment Battle Team. The Divine Punishment Battle Team was famous for their tyrannical combat strength. The Peak Profound Life stage was merely the entry standard for this team to recruit members. Even for the various forces, this was an existence that would cause people to tremble with fear at the mere mention of its name. After all, once one reached the profound realm, one would only be a step away from the true Tao validation. It was rare to see someone who could cultivate to this level and still be at ease as a lackey. The heavenly Qiao, three old men's gazes were ice-cold as they looked into the abyss of dead souls. Their expressions were unchanging since time immemorial. It seemed as if there wouldn't be the slightest change, even after 100 or 1,000 years. It's already so late, yet there's still no news. I'm afraid this Yi Shiwen has already been devoured by those monsters. He's lucky. Let's retreat. The old man of the heavenly Qiao, three old men, opened his mouth. His tone was ice-cold and emotionless, like an expressionless machine. He was very clear about what kind of terrifying existence existed in the abyss of dead souls. Even his own leader didn't dare to approach the abyss of dead souls. Was there really no way to deal with the power of death? How was that possible? The real reason was that there were tyrannical existences in the abyss of dead souls. They could overturn rivers and seas, and capture the stars and the moon. If they weren't bound by the abyss of dead souls, they would cause perilous waves once they appeared. Countless worlds would be destroyed. If he could return before the tide of undead souls returned, there would still be some hope. However, from the looks of it now, he should have died in there. How could a mere warrior at the peak profound life stage escape? It was simply impossible. The expressions of the dozens of experts behind him didn't change in the slightest. They were used to receiving orders. They were ice-cold and emotionless. Their entire bodies were emitting a murderous aura. They were like truly terrifying killing machines. Suddenly, just as they were about to turn around and leave, a ray of golden light shot out from the originally incomparably calm and lifeless fog of death aura. It was as if it had split the heavens and the earth. Roar! In the abyss of the dead souls, a deafening roar could be heard. There were many roars of dead souls in the abyss of dead souls all the time. However, these roars had already transformed into sound waves and rushed out of the abyss of dead souls. Even the expressions of the heavenly Qiao, three old men, who had been as cold as an iceberg for thousands of years, changed greatly at this moment. They all knew that these ferocious beasts trapped in the abyss of dead souls would definitely not be able to break free and rush out of the abyss of dead souls at any other time. Even so, just the thought of the terrifying death aura of the ferocious beasts behind the roars was enough to make their hair stand on end. This was clearly the abyss of dead souls. Many ferocious beasts at the profound death realm were about to rush out. It wasn't difficult to hear the flustered and exasperated feeling from the angry roars. What exactly had made them so flustered and exasperated? At this moment, the purple-clothed middle-aged man hurriedly pointed at the golden light and said, "Elders, it's him. It's him. He's Yi Shiwen. Stop him." The heavenly Qiao, three old men, immediately reacted. The young man among them said coldly, "Don't worry. With us here, it's impossible for him to escape." Whoosh! A shocking sword light was released from his hand. It was like a waterfall that directly slashed across the sky, after which it fiercely blasted in front of Yi Shiwen. Boom! The sword light swept over. It was just a hair's breadth away from directly piercing through Yi Shiwen. This had all been calculated by the young man. If Yi Shiwen hadn't stopped at the most crucial moment, he would have been completely pierced by now. Yi Shiwen stopped in his tracks and raised his head to look at the people of the Divine Union in the distance. His expression immediately turned grave. How could he not recognize the insignia of the people of the Divine Union? He had never imagined that he would actually encounter these people of the Divine Union right after escaping from the abyss of dead souls. It seemed like a huge battle was unavoidable. No, it should be said that he had already anticipated this. From the moment he had allowed the people of the divine union to escape, he had already thought that there would be revenge. However, he had never imagined that it would come so quickly. Chapter 1904. The dozens of peak profound life stage experts all exuded the aura of valiant killing machines. Their valiant auras were not something that Zhang Ming's could compare to. Zhang Ming's battle experience could be said to be rich. However, those were all normal battles. It was impossible for him to nurture the auras of these dozens of peak profound life stage experts. They must have crawled out of mountains of corpses and seas of blood. Perhaps only one out of hundreds of thousands of people could be nurtured into powerful existences. Even he had to admit that the strength of the divine union was far greater than he had imagined. The mysterious world was a place where most of the profound realm experts would come. It was said that the aura of immortality was buried there. Therefore, many profound realm experts would come here. No one knew exactly how many profound realm experts were hiding in the mysterious world. There were even many profound realm experts who entered the profound world and passed away silently in meditation. Not many people knew about it. It was completely silent, other than in the mysterious world. Where else could one see such a huge lineup of profound life stage experts? The divine union was an outstanding force among the various great forces in the mysterious world. They could stand shoulder to shoulder with those ancient forces. Even so, when he saw so many peak profound life stage killing machines surrounding this place, he could imagine how furious the divine union was. They were probably determined to kill him. He couldn't help but sneer. His body was surging with power, like thousands of horses galloping, flowing through his body. He had finally destroyed the heavenly tribulation. The instant he destroyed the heavenly retribution, the undead creatures that had been eyeing him covetously did not care about anything else and attacked one after another. This caused Yi Shiwen to break out in a cold sweat. Not only were there ordinary initial profound death stage experts, there were even late profound death stage experts and even peak profound death stage experts. Fortunately, he had already made preparations. He unfurled his storm wings and escaped. Even so, he would have been trapped in the dead soul abyss forever if he had been slightly slower. Therefore, he had only cared about rushing out and had not noticed that there were so many experts surrounding him. They had set up an inescapable net to capture him. "You are Yi Shiwen?" The old man among the three heavenly Chao elders cast a cold glance at Yi Shiwen. He had a haughty expression on his face, as if he didn't care about Yi Shiwen at all. From the information they had obtained, Yi Shiwen was merely a martial artist at the peak of the profound life realm. Even if he was at the peak of the profound life realm, the gap between the profound death realm and the profound life realm was like that of the heavens and the earth. "That's right. Since you were here to catch me, then don't talk nonsense." Yi Shiwen wasn't nervous and just said with a slight smile, "What a daring fellow. He's simply too daring. He must have eaten the guts of a leopard." At this time, the middle-aged expert of the three Chao brothers coldly stared at Yi Shiwen. His face was expressionless, as if he was looking at a dead man. It seemed as if he was looking at an insignificant ant. "You have challenged the dignity of the divine union. The heavens want to destroy you. That's why you have lost your mind. If you have any last words, just say them," said the young man from the Chao family. His tone seemed to be amiable, but it was as cold as the other two. Who knows who will be the one to leave behind last words? Yi Shiwen didn't get angry. Instead, he chuckled. "How dare you?" The old man from the Chao family yelled furiously. "Go! Capture him! I want him to suffer a fate worse than death. I want everyone to see the consequences of offending the divine union." As he spoke, his gaze swept across the surroundings. The warning in his eyes was very obvious. Killing Yi Shiwen was secondary in his heart. The key was to use Yi Shiwen's head to warn the forces that weren't friendly with the divine union to behave themselves. If thorns like Yi Shiwen frequently appeared and caused trouble for the divine union, even the divine union, which had countless experts, wouldn't be able to handle it. Whoosh! At that moment, a member of the Sky Punishment Battle team, who was at the peak profound life realm, sneered as he pounced towards Yi Shiwen. As he brandished his long blade, a blade light illuminated half the sky and earth. A frightening blade chi swept towards Yi Shiwen with a frightening aura, as if it wanted to hack him to death on the spot. His aura had already been raised to the extreme, and the frightening strength of a peak profound life realm expert was completely displayed. Yi Shiwen's eyes narrowed slightly. He didn't know what kind of secret technique these people had used to enhance their strength. This person's strength was actually comparable to Jun Dingtian's when he hadn't fused with the martial path embodiment technique. Although Jun Dingtian hadn't fused with the martial path embodiment technique, his strength was tyrannical. Ordinary peak profound life realm experts simply wouldn't be a match for him. Even Qin Lai wasn't a match for him. From this, it could be seen how frightening this member of the Sky Punishment Battle Team was. This member of the Sky Punishment Battle Team was merely an ordinary member. Yi Shiwen could even tell that he wasn't even a team leader. On the left and right sides of that member of the Sky Punishment Battle Team, two other members of the Sky Punishment Battle Team had appeared out of nowhere. They attacked one after another, slashing out blade lights that filled the sky, completely sealing off all of Yi Shiwen's escape routes. The battle team of these three was already very proficient. God knew how many battles they had gone through to form such a tacit understanding. They didn't even need to speak. They only needed to look at each other and make a move to understand each other's intentions. This set of joint attack techniques showed that they were very proficient in it. Moreover, it was straightforward and neat, without the slightest bit of sloppiness. Even a lion would use its full strength to catch a rabbit. This point was fully reflected by these three people. Even Yi Shiwen didn't dare to say that he would attach so much importance to his opponents. This was the perception and truth that he had obtained through countless life and death situations. However, Yi Shiwen didn't panic in the slightest in the face of these three astonishing blade lights. He didn't even make any superfluous movements. He just stretched his hands forward and tore out countless golden lights to meet the three blade lights. Boom! There was a deafening roar as the blade lights and the golden lights collided violently. The space collapsed and a huge storm was set off, making it hard for people to see clearly. Yi Shiwen faced such an attack effortlessly. He didn't hold back at all. However, even though his performance was astonishing, no one was the slightest bit surprised. This included the spies of the Divine Union and the other major forces. According to the information they had received, Yi Shiwen could even destroy a battle fortress on his own. This kind of combat power had already far exceeded that of an ordinary peak profound life realm expert. There was nothing strange about it at all. The three of them didn't stop at all when they saw that their attacks had been easily blocked. They slashed out 2 more times in succession. Suddenly, the space became crisscrossed, and the storm was cut off. They didn't panic at all. After experiencing countless battles, their entire bodies had basically evolved into fighting machines. They wouldn't panic at all even if they were in a tense situation. However, even with their astonishing mental fortitude, they were still completely shocked when they saw the scene in front of them. Their all-out attack couldn't withstand a single blow from Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen actually just opened his hand. His hand turned into a sky full of golden lights and instantly caught the blade lights that they had slashed out. Bang! In an instant, the blade lights were directly crushed on the spot. They couldn't land on Yi Shiwen's body at all. The blade lights were directly crushed, revealing 3 long blades. Although they were standard weapons, they were all extraordinary magic tools. However, before they could react, Yi Shiwen had already grabbed the 3 long blades in his hand. Clang! 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 A series of crisp sounds were heard. The 3 long blades were actually shattered inch by inch. They had already broken into a large pile of iron. This time, everyone was completely shocked. Even though they had already received news that Yi Shiwen's combat power far exceeded that of an ordinary peak profound life realm expert, it was still a little too heaven-defying for him to be at such a level. He was simply a monster. Do any of you know what Yi Shiwen's physical body is? He's simply a monster. I've heard of the tyrannical physiques of the human race. I've even seen many of them. However, I don't recall seeing such a sky full of golden lights. Could it be the legendary Great Light Body? No, although the Great Light Body also has a sky full of golden lights, it isn't this overbearing light. Furthermore, I've never heard of the Great Light Body's physical body being so abnormal that it can actually crush magic tools with its bare hands. That's right. I've also never seen or heard of such a thing. Speaking of which, that Yi Shiwen actually rushed out of the undead soul abyss. Am I seeing things? He actually rushed out of the undead soul abyss when the tide of undead souls returned. Oh my god, those roars just now. Could it be those profound death realm monsters from the undead soul abyss? The more people thought about it, the more shocked and frightened they became. Regardless of whether it was crushing magic tools with his bare hands or rushing out from the dead soul abyss, these were not things that a peak profound life realm expert could do. No matter what, they couldn't help but be frightened. Seeing Yi Shiwen's powerful performance, even the expressions of the Heavenly and Xiao elders, who originally didn't take Yi Shiwen seriously, changed slightly. They seemed to have a whole new level of respect for him. How dare you? The old man of the Heavenly and Xiao elders roared. Yi Shiwen directly threw out the broken fragments of the long blades that he had grabbed. They turned into streaks of light that shot towards the members of the Tian FA battle team at an astonishing speed. Chapter 1905. The elder of the three heavenly Qiao elders shouted. Yi Shiwen had dared to be so arrogant in front of them. He was simply provoking them right in front of their faces. He immediately drew out a large spiritual hand and actually wanted to catch all of the flowing lights. It was very impressive. Profound Death Realm. This was the first time that Yi Shiwen had seen an expert who wasn't at the Profound Death Realm in action. Although the skeleton demonic beast was a genuine Profound Death Realm demonic beast, it didn't have the time to make a move before it was completely restrained by Yi Shiwen's heavenly retribution. It didn't take long for it to die at his hands. The real attack of a Profound Death Realm expert was completely different from that of a Profound Life Realm expert. This was because a portion of the power of death and power of life fused together to form chaos. When it was blasted out, it was extremely powerful. Who can save the person I want to kill? Yi Shiwen shouted. The flowing light that was originally flying out actually flew out at an even faster speed, instantly dodging the large hand. Bang! 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 These flowing lights were like a sudden clap of thunder, violently bombarding the bodies of the Tian FA battle team members. These Tian FA battle team members could be said to be outstanding talents at the peak of the Profound Life Realm. If it weren't for Yi Shiwen, Jun Dingtian, and a few other freaks, they would almost be invincible existences in this realm. However, in the face of these fragments, almost none of them could withstand it. Their protective true energy and all sorts of defenses were completely useless in the face of this simple and unremarkable blade. The blades directly penetrated their bodies and flew into the distance. The members of the Tian FA battle team were instantly severely injured, and their internal organs were crushed into powder in an instant. Their tempered physical bodies were simply nothing in front of Yi Shiwen. None of the people from the Divine Union who came to kill me today can escape. Yi Shiwen shouted loudly and brandished his sword. A ray of sword light swept out, and the sword intent immediately swept out like a river flowing backwards. Its power was infinite, and the sword chi crisscrossed. Each ray was interwoven with the supreme truth of the sword, and all of it was under Yi Shiwen's control. Whoosh! Yi Shiwen's figure directly flew out and instantly rushed into the Tian FA battle team. Then he ruthlessly slashed down with his sword. Bang! This member of the Tian FA battle squad, who was at the peak of the Profound Life stage, was unable to react at all. He had already been heavily injured and was unable to dodge in time. Thus, he exploded on the spot. Bang! 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 In just a few breaths, he had already killed 5 or 6 members of the Divine Union's Tian FA battle team. Everyone was thoroughly frightened, including the spies of the major forces. No one had expected that there would be such a shocking change at this time. Yi Shiwen, who had originally thought that he was already dead, had unexpectedly turned things around at this time. Everyone was stunned. Peak of the profound life stage. Damn, who the hell said that this was the peak of the profound life stage? Had they ever seen such a tyrannical and awesome peak of the profound life stage? If all of them were at the profound life stage, how could profound death stage experts endure this? Although there were no tyrannical experts among the spies of the major forces present, the fact that they were able to become spies in such a situation naturally meant that they were not simple. They still had this little bit of insight. How could they not see that Yi Shiwen's tyrannical strength far exceeded that of a peak of the profound life stage? Even if he had fused with his martial arts embodiment, he should not be this tyrannical. He had instantly injured dozens of peak of the profound life stage experts with just a fragment of his long blade. No matter who heard of this kind of thing was like a legend from the Arabian Nights. However, Yi Shiwen had actually done it. One could imagine how big the gap between them was. Whoosh! At this moment, the youth that Third Elder Qiao had led made the first move. He had already been thoroughly infuriated by Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen had massacred the members of the Tian FA battle team in front of him. This was simply a huge slap to his face. He clenched his fist and directly punched out. A frightening force set off a powerful airwave that directly caused the air to vibrate violently. Inch by inch, it collapsed towards Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen did not have the slightest change. He directly stabbed out with his sword. The sword light tore through everything. Sword intent rampaged and overflowed in all directions. Boom! The fist force and the sword intent violently collided in the void. Countless death energy directly exploded. Both of them took a few steps back. They were actually evenly matched. You, the death energy in your body. You can't possibly be at the profound life stage. You're actually at the profound death stage. The youth's eyes widened as he said in disbelief. If he had not personally experienced it, how would he dare to believe that the younger generation in front of him had actually stepped into the profound death stage? What a joke! In order to step into the profound death stage, the three of them had paid a great price and fought many times. Even they themselves did not know how many battles they had fought. They had already cultivated for thousands of years. However, this younger generation member had only cultivated for a few years. At the very most, it would not exceed 1,000 years. Yet, he had actually reached such a level. How could they accept this? The youth's words immediately caused the scouts from the various large factions to be startled. How is this possible? Even if he was joking, it should be impossible for it to be like this. Profound death stage. He had actually stepped into the profound death stage. Just what kind of miraculous encounter did he have in the dead spirit abyss that allowed him to step into the profound death stage in one go? This was simply inconceivable. They still believed in the information that they had obtained earlier. Peak profound life stage. There was only one possibility. That was, he had improved by leaps and bounds during this period of time. Only then would it be possible for him to achieve such a feat. If this was the case, everything would be extremely normal. It was not strange for a profound death stage expert to defeat a profound life stage expert. However, it's useless even if you've stepped into the profound death stage. It's absolutely impossible for you to be my match. The youth laughed maliciously. He looked towards Yi Shiwen, only to see him clenching his 5 fingers into a fist once again. A punch was thrown forward, shattering the air and blasting a huge hole in the sky. It was unknown how many thousands of years he had immersed himself in this fist technique. It had long reached the point of perfection. He was a grandmaster of the fist Tao. The might of this attack was boundless and extremely frightening. In that case, let me properly witness the might of a profound death stage expert like you. Yi Shiwen did not give in at all. It could be said that he was extremely unyielding. Go, all of you go. I must kill him. At this moment, under the command of the youth, everyone began to pounce towards Yi Shiwen. Although it was impossible for them to be Yi Shiwen's match, they were still existences at the peak of the profound life stage. They were still able to affect Yi Shiwen. These experts unleashed various techniques and directly bombarded towards Yi Shiwen. Both parties began to fight without restraint in the air, causing the entire sky to completely collapse. It was as if the end of the world had arrived. Amidst these attacks, the golden longsword that Yi Shiwen had condensed flowed freely. It formed sword curtains in the sky, completely protecting him. It was watertight, and these people were unable to attack Yi Shiwen. His swordsmanship had already reached the level of both offense and defense. While he was defending, sword light continuously overflowed in all directions and slashed towards these experts. None of the experts from the Divine Union who were besieging Yi Shiwen were ordinary people. They were all peak profound life stage experts. It could be said that they were all elites. However, when facing Yi Shiwen, they did not have any advantage at all. Ah! A miserable shriek was heard. A Divine Union expert was directly cleaved into two by Yi Shiwen on the spot. His speed was extremely fast. After killing this Divine Union expert, Yi Shiwen did not stop. With a flash, he appeared in front of another Divine Union expert and cleaved him into two. Behind him, the three old Xiao brothers had already rushed over. However, they were always a step slower than Yi Shiwen. They could only watch helplessly as Yi Shiwen wantonly massacred them. At this moment, all they could do was roar incessantly. Damned Yi Shiwen! If you have the ability, do you dare to fight to the death with us? The three of them roared furiously. However, their speed was still slightly slower than Yi Shiwen's. Thus, they could only watch helplessly as Yi Shiwen wantonly massacred them. Yi Shiwen simply ignored their clamoring. When all the other profound life stage experts of the Divine Union had been slaughtered, Yi Shiwen stopped. He held the long sword in his hand, like a peerless god of death. His body carried a murderous aura that would terrify ordinary people. The murderous aura on his body was already very strong. Furthermore, everyone had personally witnessed him slaughtering dozens of peak profound life stage experts. In their eyes, Yi Shiwen was no longer a human. He was an Azura, a bloody Azura of slaughter. Even though they had already prepared themselves for a huge battle to break out, they had never imagined that it would be this intense. The Divine Union, which had originally believed that victory was within their grasp, had actually paid such a painful price. However, paying such a price was not without any results. At least the three of them had surrounded Yi Shiwen. Even if this encirclement seemed a bit like Yi Shiwen deliberately let them surround him, in any case, Yi Shiwen was still surrounded. Yi Shiwen, you have completely infuriated me. Don't even think of escaping today. I will definitely make you suffer a fate worse than death. The young man roared furiously, like a wounded beast. His eyes were already extremely bloodshot. Yi Shiwen's actions were equivalent to placing their pride on the ground and trampling on it. This was intolerable. Run away. We will see who exactly is running away later. Now that those flies are no longer bothering us, let me properly experience the power of a profound death stage expert. Today, no one from the Divine Union can even dream of leaving. Ice cold and merciless. Chapter 1906. The sky was filled with the stench of blood. Bloody mist continuously lingered in the air, dyeing the sky blood red. Although there were still endless dark clouds covering the sky outside the undead abyss, it was still much better than the dark environment in the undead abyss. Everyone understood and saw it clearly, and they all felt a sense of disbelief. Dozens of peak profound life realm experts had been slaughtered like trash. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they wouldn't have believed it. Under normal circumstances, dozens of peak profound life realm experts wouldn't have been completely powerless against profound death realm experts. They might even have had the chance to defeat experts like Sisu and Su Najing. Everyone opened their mouths as they looked at the corpses of the Divine Union experts that had already fallen into the undead soul abyss. However, no one said anything in the end. Regardless of the outcome of today's battle, Yi Shiwen's name would definitely shake the entire profound world, regardless of whether he was a peak expert of the profound death realm or a challenger of the Divine Union. The Divine Union had been a troublemaker and a challenger since its expansion until now. Now it could be compared to the various great powers. Its leader was also one of the top powerhouses in the world. His prestige had spread far and wide. It was already completely different from before. There were probably only a few people who would dare to challenge the divine union now. They thought about it carefully and confirmed that they had indeed never heard of Yi Shiwen's name before. He shouldn't be a descendant of some top power. Otherwise, they would definitely have heard of him. At this moment, everyone had many speculations about Yi Shiwen. I think you're courting death. If we don't kill you today, how will the three of us have the face to stand in this world? The young man from the Tian Xiao, three elders roared continuously. He couldn't bear it any longer and directly sent a fist crashing down. This time, he didn't hold back at all. Instead, he used his full strength. Although this little thief before him was despicable, he wasn't a profound life realm expert that could be easily bullied. Instead, he was a profound death realm expert that was no different from him. Just this alone was enough to make him look at him in a new light. This fist was mighty and carried the aura of a great calamity. The sky collapsed and the earth caved in. It destroyed everything and enveloped Yi Shiwen, leaving him with nowhere to retreat. Clang! A sword light appeared above Yi Shiwen's head and flew out from his head. It rose against the wind and became bigger and bigger, forming a monstrous sword intention. It turned into a long river and fiercely bombarded that circle. Boom! The void shook violently. This was a clash of pure strength. Dang, dang, dang. It was almost a draw between the two of them. Yi Wen's combat power was extraordinary, and it could be said that he was world-shattering. However, the young man had cultivated for many years, and his skills were profound. Even Jun Dingtian was no match for him. At this moment, the advantage of his age was fully displayed. Suppress him. Great Rainbow Bridge Hand. At this moment, the middle-aged man finally began to attack. The moment he attacked, he blasted out a long rainbow bridge, hanging in the sky. It was incomparably gorgeous, like the scene of a sunny day after the rain. Red, orange, yellow, green, cyan, blue, and purple. These 7 colors intertwined with each other, and it carried a terrifying power. Yi Shiwen stood firm and looked at the long rainbow bridge. It looked incomparably gorgeous, but it contained incomparably terrifying martial arts power. These 7 colors represented the astonishing palm technique, and all of them were integrated into the great rainbow bridge hand. One could imagine how tyrannical this set of palm technique was. It was incredible. However, there was not the slightest change in his expression. He was still incomparably cold. He took a step forward and formed a mighty golden tide, which blasted towards the long rainbow bridge. There was an excited smile on his face. Come to think of it, this should be his first time fighting with a profound death realm expert. For him, such an experience was also very rare. Boom! The long rainbow bridge was destroyed by Yi Shiwen on the spot. His golden sword light was indestructible, extremely tyrannical, and extremely frightening. In an instant, it tore everything apart, and even the sky was buried. Buried heaven's sword. This sword of his was so mighty that even the heavens and earth were buried. It was casually used, but its power was shockingly great. After directly destroying the long rainbow bridge, Yi Shiwen's attack did not end there. In an instant, he had already pounced over. Swish! Yi Shiwen shouted coldly. His figure traversed the vast sky and arrived in front of this middle-aged man. The long sword in his hand didn't show any mercy. It blasted out, collapsed the sky, and broke everything. It was as if a country had appeared behind him. Countless sword chi blotted out the heavens and earth. The frightening strength of the profound death stage was completely displayed. There was no need for him to use all sorts of methods to deal with the skeleton demonic beast. All he needed to do was to rely on his own strength, and he would be able to sweep through everything in his path. This attack of his was the strongest sword principle, and it was impossible for him to stop for even a moment. However, although the middle-aged man saw that his great rainbow bridge hand had been destroyed, he did not panic at all. He was not a pushover either. His eyes suddenly opened, and a long rainbow bridge suddenly appeared around his body, protecting him within it. This was actually the Great Rainbow Bridge hand again. This was also a martial art that was both offensive and defensive. Boom! Yi Shiwen's sword chi blasted onto the body of the long Rainbow Bridge. It was like the collision between the strongest spear and the strongest shield. Crack! 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 Little by little, cracks appeared on the long Rainbow Bridge. However, cracks also appeared on Yi Shiwen's sword light. Both sides were already extremely tyrannical. Both sides were unable to break through each other's defenses and could only reflect on themselves. Bang! With a loud bang, the long Rainbow Bridge and the long golden sword suddenly broke apart and turned into halos that spread in all directions. Among the younger generation, it is indeed rare to have a cultivation like yours. However, that's all there is to it. If you want to fight with me, you are still 1,000 years away. The middle-aged man's expression was indifferent. Don't come forward. I want to crush this little bastard with my own hands. He didn't even want others to intervene. He wanted to crush Yi Shiwen with his own hands. Although the Sky Qiao three elders had the appearance of an old, middle-aged, and young man, they were all equally cruel and bloodthirsty. In the entire Divine Union, they were considered executioners and had a notorious reputation. Today, they had been slapped in the face by Yi Shiwen. How could they be happy? If they didn't crush Yi Shiwen with their own hands, they would feel sorry for themselves. You are still far from being able to kill me, Yi Shiwen sneered. The middle-aged man simply didn't care about anything. The power in his body was constantly boiling, and rainbow-like colors appeared around his body. It was gorgeous and sacred. Break for me! His hand blasted out, and the rainbow-like colors that filled the sky tore everything apart. The single blade went straight into Yi Shiwen's body at an extremely fast speed. An ordinary person simply wouldn't have been able to resist this attack. However, Yi Shiwen's speed was even faster. He was selling his cards directly. Bang! 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 He kept slapping out ruthlessly, colliding with them in the void and erupting with bursts of powerful lights that resembled exploding stars. Is that all you've got? If that's all you've got, then you shall die today. The middle-aged man let out a loud roar and stomped on the cosmos, shattering the void with a single stomp. The Great Rainbow Bridge hand that he blasted out actually blasted out a 7-color trajectory within which all kinds of martial arts were boiling. This kind of attack was as fast as lightning, tearing through the sky, appearing and disappearing unpredictably. However, Yi Shiwen was always able to completely resist it. Even so, Yi Shiwen was still constantly being beaten back, as if he wasn't a match at all. As expected, although Yi Shiwen is already brave enough, and even ordinary profound death stage experts aren't a match for him, it's a pity that his opponents are actually the Tianqiao three elders. That's right. It should be said that his luck is not good enough. Otherwise, why would his first battle after stepping into the profound death stage be against the Tianqiao three elders? Although he might only lose once, this defeat is enough to take his life. This is the first time I've seen the famous Great Rainbow Bridge palm. It's said that this is a technique that he inherited from an ancient sage. It's extremely impressive, and he has fused palm techniques into his palm. There are fast and slow, heavy as Mount Tai, and quiet as a swan. It can be said to be all-encompassing, and all sorts of palm techniques are fused into it. No matter what kind of enemy it is, it can be completely restrained. It's an extremely impressive technique. Thump, thump, thump. Yi Shiwen continuously retreated, as if he had completely lost the initiative in this battle. However, the middle-aged man became more and more apprehensive the more he fought. This was because he discovered that although he seemed to have gained the upper hand, he was in fact unable to completely suppress Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen was only constantly defending, yet he was able to completely defend against his attacks. His attacks, which seemed to be flawless, were actually unable to take him down. Wasn't this enough to prove the problem? This kid is so hard to deal with, he couldn't help but exclaim. The expressions of the other two had also changed from their relaxed expressions at the beginning to abnormally grave. How could they not see that their second brother's attack had been completely blocked? The Great Rainbow Bridge palm was extremely powerful. An ordinary person wouldn't even be able to block a single attack, let alone block it until now. Even after continuously unleashing the Great Rainbow Bridge palm, he was still unable to take down his opponent. This kid wasn't simple. Is this all you've got? You're still far from being able to kill me with only this much. Chapter 1907. Is that all you've got? You still have a long way to go if you think you can kill me with only this much strength. Yi Shiwen roared coldly. His roar shook the entire sky. Above his head, the yin-yang life and death diagram spun continuously and soared into the sky. The power that he had been suppressing in his body suddenly erupted. He was now able to fully control the power that he had been unable to fully control previously. Impossible! Did you not use your full strength just now? The middle-aged man was in disbelief. He could not believe that Yi Shiwen, who was able to withstand his attacks continuously, did not use his full strength. If that was the case, what was he? That's right. You were just trying to familiarize me with the true power of the profound death realm. Yi Shiwen smiled. The aura from his body continued to surge and erupt bit by bit. It seemed as if it had reached its limit and was breaking through continuously. You've condensed a martial path incarnation. At this moment, the old man was shocked. He could tell at a glance that Yi Shiwen had condensed a martial path incarnation. There was no other possibility. His eyes were suddenly filled with shock. It should be known that even amongst the profound death stage experts, there were only a few who could form a martial Dao avatar. Those who were able to condense a martial embodiment were all people who had great fortune, great fortuitous encounters, or possessed shocking talent. Although many people, including Jun Dingtian, had condensed a martial path incarnation, the truth was that there was only 1 in 10,000 people who could condense a martial path incarnation. Previously, Jun Dingtian and the others could be said to be 1 in 10,000 geniuses. Impossible. Even if you were lucky enough to step into the profound death stage, it is impossible for your martial avatar to rise to the same level. Even if you manage to slightly increase your strength, it will not change your fate today. The middle-aged man's face started to turn malevolent and distorted. He was completely agitated. Compared to Yi Shiwen, they really didn't have anything to be proud of. They were proud of their strength and skill, but in front of Yi Shiwen, there was nothing to be proud of. They knew that Yi Shiwen had already condensed a martial arts incarnation, but they didn't care. He was at the peak of the profound life realm, and even if he had condensed a martial arts incarnation, he still wouldn't be a match for them. However, if it was a profound death stage expert who had created a martial path avatar, the situation would be completely different. You'll know once you try. Yi Shiwen smiled coldly. In an instant, he had already rushed in front of him. With a mighty momentum, his sword directly pressed down. Yes, he did not slash down, but directly pressed down. This was a mighty sword momentum. There was no need for the sword to be unconventional. It directly slashed down with the tyrannical strength of a superhuman. His strength was already extremely powerful to begin with, and was not inferior to the young man at the peak initial profound death stage. Now that he had fused with a martial avatar of similar strength, one could imagine just how powerful he was. Bang! Bang! With a loud explosion, the rainbow bridge protecting the middle-aged man's body began to explode inch by inch, shattering into pieces. Yi Shiwen's sword light had yet to slash down. Just the terrifying sword pressure alone had completely shattered the rainbow bridge protecting the middle-aged man. Both parties simply didn't seem to be existences in the same realm. How is this possible? How can this be? The middle-aged man still had a look of disbelief on his face. Yi Shiwen's martial avatar had actually risen to the profound death stage. Otherwise, it wouldn't be so powerful. But if he wanted to improve to this level, it would be impossible without enough time to convert enough power. How'd he do it? However, no matter how puzzled he was, Yi Shiwen had already done something that he thought was impossible. I'll fight it out with you. He directly opened his mouth and let out a huge roar, which turned into rays of light all over the sky. Then his whole body burst into bursts of amazing light, which turned into a huge rainbow bridge and crossed the sky, directly blasting in front of Yi Shiwen. That's all you've got? All of you die. Yi Shiwen sneered and descended from the sky. The sword light pressed down, and his combat strength soared to the limit. Bang! The middle-aged man was simply no match for Yi Shiwen. When facing one Yi Shiwen, he still had the upper hand. However, when facing the fusion of two Yi Shiwen, he was completely no match for him. The middle-aged man directly flew out like a cannonball. It was extremely terrifying, and the entire void was completely torn apart on the spot, tearing a huge rainbow. So strong. Oh my God, Yi Shiwen, who was being suppressed just a moment ago, has suddenly become so strong. Is this an expert who has condensed a martial avatar? No wonder. My master once said that if you encounter an expert who has condensed a martial avatar, don't even think about it. You should quickly escape. Within the same realm, they are invincible. No one can be their match. They are all heaven's pride and have the blessings of the heavens. For ordinary people, to be able to condense a martial avatar, great wisdom, great perseverance, and great luck were indispensable. It could almost be said that they were heaven's pride, unparalleled, and had the blessings of the heavens. Of course, if both of them condensed a martial avatar, it could be seen who was the real son and who was the adopted son. Ah! The middle-aged man who was flying in the air finally couldn't bear it. He screamed and spat out a mouthful of blood. The blow just now was just an ordinary blow, and it had seriously injured him. The combat strength of 1+1 was far beyond that of 2 Yi Shiwen. Second brother. At this time, the young man was filled with grief and indignation. In an instant, the situation had completely reversed. Where was the feeling of victory just now? There was an unprecedented look of horror in his heart. He almost fainted from suffocation. The contrast had suddenly reached such an extent. He had to admit that Yi Shiwen's strength was indeed very unexpected. However, he hadn't expected that it would be so unexpected. No one had expected that it would be so unexpected. With such strength, even if I erupt, I definitely won't be a match for him. Oh my God! How can there be such a monster? He didn't know how many years it had been since he entered the profound death realm, but he had never seen a so-called young genius reach such a level. Yi Shiwen took advantage of the victory and chased after the middle-aged man. He didn't give him a chance to breathe. Above his head, a mighty long river of swordsmanship rose again. With earth-shattering power, it fiercely blasted towards the middle-aged man in midair. The middle-aged man couldn't move at all. His body had been seriously injured by Yi Shiwen in an instant. He couldn't react in time and could only watch as the sword principal long river slashed towards him. Save me, I don't want to die. At this time, he couldn't care less about his dignity. The only thing he could think of was how to survive. He swore that if he could survive today, he would definitely stay far away from this monster and never provoke this monster again. Save you? No one can save someone I want to kill. Yi Shiwen sneered. How arrogant! At this time, the old man directly teleported and appeared beside the middle-aged man. He directly spread his hands and turned them into a huge chi wall, protecting the two of them. Boom! A huge and intense collision occurred. The sword principal torrent directly blasted against the chi wall. Its power was peerless, and it directly caused the entire world to collapse. It was a majestic scene. Bang! The chi wall shattered on the spot. However, the sword principal torrent that was born was like an arrow at the end of its flight. It was easily received by the old man. The old man's face was a little red, and his breathing became heavier. Although he had received the previous attack, it was likely that he didn't feel good. Yi Shiwen was surprised. Although they were both at the peak of the early profound death realm, this old man was clearly stronger than the middle-aged man. This was the only person that Yi Shiwen couldn't defeat. After all, he hadn't reached the peak of the early profound death realm. If he didn't have his martial path incarnation, he wouldn't be a match for such an existence. Although the old man couldn't kill him, it was true that he couldn't kill the old man. However, that was only an assumption. He had already condensed his martial path incarnation, so everything was already different. I can't drag this on any longer. Yi Shiwen thought to himself. He could feel that the martial power in his body was being consumed at a rapid pace. Integrating the condensed martial arts incarnation into his body certainly made his martial power skyrocket in an instant, but at the same time, the consumption of martial power wasn't twice as much as usual. Instead, it was several times more than usual. It was consumed several times in one go. Therefore, Jun Ding Tian's cultivation power would be consumed very quickly, and he wouldn't be able to maintain the state of the martial path incarnation. This was a double-edged sword. He had to grasp the time well. Otherwise, he would be tricked. Most importantly, he was most worried that the experts of the Divine Union would rush over if they received news. Therefore, he didn't have much time to waste. If the almighty experts of the Divine Union were willing, they could directly pay a certain price to set up a space channel and arrive instantly. Although the price would be high, a colossus like the Divine Union would definitely be able to do it. As the saying went, a long night brings many dreams. I have to end this quickly. The longer I delay, the more disadvantageous it will be for me. Yi Shiwen narrowed his eyes. Die! At that moment, the young man brazenly launched an attack in order to divert Yi Shiwen's attention. His body moved, and the power of his fist distorted the void as it flew over and struck Yi Shiwen. Chapter 1908. At the same time, the old man also moved and started to heal the middle-aged man. After the treatment, the middle-aged man no longer vomited blood. Although he couldn't recover in a short period of time, being able to stop his injuries in such a short time was already very good. The middle-aged man held his breath and suppressed all the injuries on his body. Do it! This kid is troublesome. Use the joint attack array formation. We must kill this kid here. We absolutely can't let him leave. Otherwise, he will definitely become a huge threat to the Divine Union. The old man glared angrily at Yi Shiwen and attacked. His every move was deadly. He hated Yi Shiwen to the core, so he didn't give him any chance to dodge. However, Yi Shiwen seemed to be able to deal with such a heavy attack with ease. He had completely resolved this kind of offensive. However, there was no way for him to continue attacking, as the young man and the middle-aged man had already joined the battle and rushed towards Yi Shiwen. The three of them had a very tacit understanding. It was unknown how many years they had been working together, but it could be said that they had already reached the pinnacle. The three of them working together was often much more powerful than when they were working alone. Although it couldn't be compared to Yi Shiwen's martial path clone, it was a very exquisite joint attack technique. Most importantly, compared to the martial path clone, which consumed a lot of energy, they could persist for a longer time. They had already made up their minds to kill Yi Shiwen on the spot after his martial path clone dissipated. Go to hell! The Heavenly Chao three elders were like one person as they formed a huge hand that covered the sky and brought along a long rainbow bridge that came crashing down towards Yi Shiwen. The middle-aged man wasn't the only one who knew the great rainbow bridge hand. It could even be said that all three of them knew it. At the same time, the void was completely distorted. It was much more tyrannical than the power of the great rainbow bridge hand that the middle-aged man had used. Kill me? You still haven't figured out who the hunter is and who the prey is. Yi Shiwen sneered disdainfully and directly grabbed a golden sword in his hand. A mighty sword aura vibrated out, which contained brilliant swordsmanship, and suddenly blasted towards the great rainbow bridge hand. Boom! The great rainbow bridge hand was slashed and dissipated into thin air. The colorful energy spread out in all directions, forming a huge storm that blinded everyone's eyes. Yi Shiwen rushed out of this colorful storm with golden light all over the sky. It was as if an ancient god of war had come back to life. His 5 fingers clenched into a fist. It was like a huge star, constantly rotating, constantly exploding, and constantly being born. The whole world seemed to be revolving. Under the guidance of Yi Shiwen's opportunity, the entire void turned into a huge cosmic world, which was completely covered by his fist intention. His chi activity was firmly locked onto the 3 Tian Xiao elders, not allowing them to escape. An astonishing killing intention flashed in Yi Shiwen's eyes. He didn't have much time left. The only thing he could do was to fight. Facing the menacing Yi Shiwen, The three heavenly Chow elders couldn't sit still and wait for death. They constantly bombarded the Great Rainbow Bridge Hand. Each Great Rainbow Bridge Hand was colorful. It transformed into the great Tao of heaven and earth and collided with Yi Shiwen's universe stars. Rumble! There was a violent explosion of spiritual energy, bringing about a burst of heaven and earth turbulence. It was like a storm, sweeping out in circles. The three heavenly Chow elders retreated a few steps under such an offensive. After all, the three of them were still three people. Although they were like one, they were not one. They couldn't compare to Yi Shiwen, who had fused twice the power. It was incomparable to the past. In particular, the middle-aged man had blood flowing out of the corner of his mouth. He was completely helpless. He had been seriously injured by Yi Shiwen before. Whether he was willing or not, he couldn't hide it. In particular, Yi Shiwen seemed to know that he was the weakest among the three of them. Every move was aimed at him and constantly impacted his fragile defense. He also wanted to say that Yi Shiwen was despicable, but in fact a normal person would choose to break through the weak point first, and he had become this weak point. Damn it, damn it. He kept roaring, and his eyes were red. He was like a wounded beast that was forced into a desperate situation by Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen let out a long roar, and the tempest wings behind him were fully unleashed. His figure constantly flickered in the sky, but it was unpredictable. Above his head, the yin-yang life and death diagram was constantly rotating, transforming the yin-yang life and death force for him, and delaying the decline of his martial arts incarnation. He wouldn't give these three another chance. It could be said that he was menacing. Another long sword tore through the sky, and it went towards the middle-aged man. He charged directly at the middle-aged man. 80% of the attacks were directed at him. He wanted to destroy him and completely destroy the joint attack of the three people. As for the other two people, they were just there to restrain them a little. As long as this middle-aged man was defeated, the remaining two would not be a problem at all. How could the other two not understand this truth? But what was the use of understanding? They were still not Yi Shiwen's opponent. Even if Yi Shiwen just restrained them, he could completely suppress them. Seeing Yi Shiwen coming at him aggressively again, the middle-aged man suddenly couldn't stand it anymore. He was forced into a desperate situation, and the Rainbow Bridge suddenly appeared all over his body, instantly protecting him in it. He didn't dare to underestimate Yi Shiwen's attack power anymore. At the same time, a huge talisman suddenly appeared on his body. On this talisman, countless rays of light were flickering, and a very simple text was written on it. No one even understood what this text was. In an instant, this huge talisman turned into a huge saber aura, cutting the sky, and everything in the sky was cut apart. It was going to cut Yi Shiwen on the spot. Yi Shiwen also suddenly felt the amazing power of this saber aura. What the hell was this talisman? It could actually exert such power. Countless possibilities flashed through his mind, but he quickly figured out what this talisman was. It was probably a text written by an almighty being. It was like a pseudo-Dao rune that could produce earth-shattering power. The word that he couldn't understand, but was abnormally sharp, was very likely a saber. The word saber could transform into such a sharp saber aura, and was regarded as a trump card by a peak early-stage profound death realm expert. One could imagine how powerful this expert was. I don't believe that you can even block the leader's saber aura. The middle-aged man sneered. He had been showing weakness from the start to attract Yi Shiwen's attention, thinking that he was the breakthrough point. Indeed, it was indeed so. He was indeed the weakest of the three. However, this didn't mean that he didn't have the strength to retaliate. The leader's saber word talisman was his true trump card. This was also the reward that the three of them had received from the Divine Union for ruthlessly eradicating those sects over the years. In the end, they had been rewarded by the leader. The other two also smiled grimly. They had been waiting for this moment. Even though they hadn't communicated with each other before, they had been brothers for many years and had long understood each other. There were some things that didn't need to be said. Otherwise, Yi Shiwen would definitely have sensed it. Even if they used their spiritual consciousness to communicate, they wouldn't be able to hide it from Yi Shiwen. There was a huge gap between the strength of the two sides, so it wasn't unusual for the strong to capture the weak's spiritual consciousness. This saber aura was extremely fast. Furthermore, it had been released during Yi Shiwen's attack. The distance was very close, so it was already so fast that he couldn't dodge it. Swoosh! The saber aura drew a dazzling arc in the sky and headed straight for Yi Shiwen's head. The sword light that Yi Shiwen had unleashed was shattered in an instant. Yi Shiwen simply couldn't dodge it, so he could only raise his hands to block it. This blade light carried a little bit of golden light. It directly broke through the divinity protecting Yi Shiwen's body and directly cut into his flesh. Fresh blood splattered out in an instant. The splash was very high. Just when Yi Shiwen's palm was about to be cut into two halves, he suddenly transformed into a golden light and instantly disappeared in midair at this critical moment. Swoosh! The saber aura had already split the sky and blasted into a distant different space. When Yi Shiwen reappeared, he was already in the distance. He looked calm, but a lot of blood was flowing down his arm. His expression was calm, but his eyes couldn't hide the horror in his heart. If he hadn't dodged in time, his entire arm would have been blown up on the spot. Even his head would have been blown up. The power of this saber was astonishing. It wasn't inferior to the power of the Emergent's immortal exterminating saber. In fact, it was even more tyrannical. It seemed like he had underestimated the heroes of the world. However, his expression became even more resolute. What? You didn't die? The three people who were confident of winning were completely stunned. This was a situation that they had never thought of. They never thought that someone could dodge the saber talisman. For many years, no one had been able to dodge their saber talisman. Therefore, they couldn't even count how many strong enemies they had killed. This saber talisman belongs to me. Yi Shiwen laughed loudly. His figure crossed the sky and instantly appeared in front of the saber talisman. He grabbed it with one hand. Boom! When Yi Shiwen's big hand grasped the blade, character charm, he saw that this blade, character charm, had transformed into a peerless long blade. The sharp sword key cut Yi Shiwen's big hand, making it dripping with blood. It wanted to completely break free from Yi Shiwen's hand. Chapter 1909. Boom! 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 An incomparably loud roar resounded, and the blade, character charm, tried to break free from Yi Shiwen's grasp, but how could Yi Shiwen give it such an opportunity? The golden divinity in his hand was constantly surging, constantly suppressing the saber talisman. The saber talisman seemed to have exhausted all of its stored energy after unleashing that astonishing slash. Although its power was still terrifying, there was still a huge gap between it and the one that could kill Yi Shiwen with a single slash. Although Yi Shiwen's palm was bleeding profusely, it was powerless to break free from Yi Shiwen's grasp. Damn it! The middle-aged man was completely anxious. The saber talisman was his biggest trump card, and it was also the fundamental reason why he had the confidence to defeat Yi Shiwen. Now that this trump card was about to be snatched away by Yi Shiwen, how could he not be anxious? Whoosh! He took a step forward and rushed to Yi Shiwen's side. He poured all the strength in his body into his hand and slammed the Great Rainbow Bridge hand. Get lost! In the face of the middle-aged man's surprise attack, the anxious Yi Shiwen did not hold back at all. His eyes suddenly opened, and divine light burst out from them. His 5 fingers clenched into a fist, and his body instantly turned into a vast universe. Yi Shiwen's fist directly hit the Great Rainbow Bridge hand, and the Great Rainbow Bridge hand was directly shattered. The rainbow bridge that spanned across the vast sky was instantly shattered, and it turned into colorful rays of light that floated down to the Western Zhou dynasty. The middle-aged man's attack was completely broken by Yi Shiwen in an instant. It was only at this moment that the middle-aged man finally calmed down. He recalled exactly what sort of monster he was facing. "Watch out, second brother!" the old man shouted, trying to save the middle-aged man. But there was no time to do so. Yi Shiwen's attack had already bombarded the middle-aged man in an instant. His fist directly bombarded the middle-aged man's body. Everyone could almost see that the middle-aged man's chest had caved in, and it was visible to the naked eye. Then his whole body was like a kite with a broken string, instantly flying out. Pooh! The middle-aged man spurted out a mouthful of blood, which was mixed with ruptured internal organs. He couldn't even defend himself under Yi Shiwen's offensive. In addition, he had suffered injuries before, so he hadn't recovered at all. He had just forcibly suppressed his injuries. But now, it had completely erupted. In an instant, he was sent flying backward. Before he could even scream, he had already stopped breathing. Second brother. The old man immediately roared in grief and indignation. I'll fight you to the death. The remaining two of the Heavenly Chao 3 elders had gone completely crazy. They rushed towards Yi Shiwen. They had been extremely arrogant throughout their lives. It was unknown how many people they had killed. It could be said that they had a blood debt. However, he had never thought that he would one day follow in their footsteps and be killed by others. However, regardless of whether they could accept it or not, the death of the middle-aged man had already foreshadowed an ironclad fact. They might have been able to make some judgments if they were still sober. However, they had already gone crazy. Yi Shiwen had killed their brothers who had been like brothers for so many years. One could well imagine the shock they felt. In fact, it was simply unacceptable. With the death of the middle-aged man, the seamless cooperation of the three also broke in an instant. The three of them could barely compete with the current Yi Shiwen, but now there were only two of them left. It was equivalent to a leaky ship. It was simply vulnerable. Kill him. Damn it, he actually killed the second brother. The two of them seemed to have gone crazy and rushed towards Yi Shiwen. Their hands blasted out the great rainbow bridge hand, intertwining into a huge rainbow bridge, directly sweeping over. Yi Shiwen didn't even look at the two of them who were no longer powerful. If the two of them were still sober and left, then Yi Shiwen, who was mainly focused on subduing the saber talisman, might have let them escape because he had no way to deal with them. However, since the two of them wanted to court their own deaths, Yi Shiwen would not be lenient in the slightest. He suddenly tore the void with one hand. In an instant, the rainbow bridges were directly blasted apart. They were completely unable to get close to the protective shield condensed by his golden divinity. At this moment, the strength of his strength was also evident. Boom! The old man was shaken and retreated repeatedly. The gap between him and Yi Shiwen was obvious at a glance. This attack had also completely sobered him up and made him feel intense. He had completely discovered the gap between him and Yi Shiwen. It was simply like heaven and earth. Previously, he had only acted irrationally. However, it was too late now. Yi Shiwen simply wouldn't give them the slightest chance. If he didn't remove the roots, the weeds would grow again when the spring wind blows. In any case, he had already thoroughly offended the divine union, so it didn't matter anymore. Whoosh! The longsword in Yi Shiwen's hand directly flipped and surged within his body. Then, it instantly turned into a sword radiance and slashed out. The old man simply couldn't react at all and was directly blasted into two on the spot. Yi Shiwen's movements were too fast, so fast that even the old man couldn't react in time. He simply didn't have the time to unleash his profound death realm strength. It was simply suffocating. However, in the face of Yi Shiwen's speed that had soared to the extreme, his strength seemed so laughable. All the strength in his body had been completely transformed and absorbed by Yi Shiwen's great technique of transformation. It was simply becoming stronger and stronger as he fought, supplementing his martial path incarnation. The demonic aura of his entire body traversed the vast sky, making him look like a demon god. However, in the mysterious realm, the demon race wasn't as frightening as it was in the ancient Barrens continent. Big brother! The young man's eyes became even more bloodshot. His fists blasted out, filling the sky with rainbows. They blasted out on the spot and shrouded towards Yi Shiwen like a group of demons dancing in a frenzy. In this abnormal situation, the strength that he displayed was even more tyrannical than before. However, it was of no use. Yi Shiwen directly destroyed them cleanly. Yi Shiwen had already lost his patience. He also had a very dangerous feeling, not giving the old man the slightest chance to refute. He was holding the blade talisman in his hand, but he didn't have a good idea. If he had the seal talisman, everything would be easy. However, right now, the seal talisman was used to help Emo seal the origin spirit in the physical body of the Lord of Darkness. Therefore, if he wanted to suppress it, he could only take it slowly. The most urgent thing now was to completely kill the third of the Heavenly Qiao 3 elders. The young man gritted his teeth and glanced at Yi Shiwen. At this moment, he seemed to have sobered up. He was definitely not a match for Yi Shiwen. If this continued, the Heavenly Qiao 3 elders would be completely annihilated here today. Swish! He directly turned around and flew into the distance. His heart was filled with extreme hatred, and he deeply remembered Yi Shiwen's face. If there was a chance, he would definitely tear this guy into pieces. Trying to leave? It's a little too late now. Yi Shiwen saw the hatred in the eyes of the young man. It was precisely because of this that he couldn't let the young man escape. Sky imprisoning technique. Stay here. Yi Shiwen shouted loudly. His finger fell down and transformed into a huge cage. It seemed as if the entire sky was imprisoned. The young man wanted to escape, but he immediately felt the space around his body being imprisoned in an instant. Perhaps he would have been able to forcibly break free if there had been a similar difference in cultivation between the two sides. However, compared to Yi Shiwen, who had condensed a martial path embodiment, the difference was too great. Thus, he was directly frozen and simply couldn't move. Bang! He couldn't even move, let alone resist. He died at Yi Shiwen's hands in an instant. He really did it? One of the spies was trembling completely. He simply couldn't imagine that the people of the Divine Union would actually be slaughtered by a single person. Previously, from Yi Shiwen's point of view, they had thought that the best outcome was only one, and that was to be able to fight and escape after that. As for slaughtering the people of the Divine Union, they had never even thought about it. How could that be possible? However, this was exactly what had happened. How could they not be astonished when something that should have been impossible actually happened? He's simply not human. Experts of the same realm were slaughtered like chickens and dogs by him. Yeah, he seems to have just entered the profound death realm. Therefore, he wasn't able to completely control his own power at the beginning. As time passed, he became more and more able to control his own power. The 3 elders of heaven and Qiao were nothing in front of him. They were simply not from the same world. Oh my God, I'm afraid that his name will really shake the entire mysterious world. There are many people who have the guts to go against the Divine Union, and there are also many people who have the ability to do so. However, people who have both the guts and the strength to do so are as rare as phoenix feathers and unicorn horns. Now, such a name will be added to the list of powerhouses in the mysterious world. Yeah, the Divine Union is going to go crazy this time. Look, he's looking in our direction. Suddenly, one of the spies discovered that Yi Shiwen had glanced at them as if he was giving them a warning. Suddenly, they became silent out of fear. How could they not guess that Yi Shiwen had already recognized them? How could they not tremble in fear after seeing how Yi Shiwen had slaughtered the experts of the Divine Union? Fortunately, Yi Shiwen didn't seem to have much interest in slaughtering them. He wasn't a lunatic who wanted to thoroughly offend the various great powers that these spies represented. Regardless, everyone knew that after this battle, Yi Shiwen's name would shake the entire mysterious world. Chapter 1910. They were simply flustered and exasperated when they saw the scars of the battle. Dozens of peak profound life stage experts and 3 peak initial profound death stage experts had fallen. Even a colossus like the Divine Union would tremble at such a loss. Even the Divine Union would need to spend many years to make up for such a loss. During this period of time, their enemies would advance at an even faster speed. The gap between them and the Divine Union would be widened bit by bit. Even though the Divine Union was different from other powers and mainly recruited mysterious life realm experts, it wasn't easy to find dozens of mysterious life realm experts. The experts that they nurtured themselves had only just entered the right path. Yi Shiwen's name had shaken the world because of this. Have you guys heard? The people of the Divine Union seem to have suffered a huge loss recently. It's not just a huge loss. They have lost dozens of peak profound life stage experts, not to mention profound life stage, and 3 profound death stage experts. This is simply a huge loss. They deserve it. Who asked these people to act so tyrannically just because they are powerful? It's about time someone came out to deal with them. There will always be someone who isn't afraid of them. The divine union had been tyrannical all these years. Although many people were afraid of them, there were even more people who were disgusted with them for various reasons. What was that person's name again? I think it was called Night Raid. How audacious! Although the divine union is disgusting, it can't be denied that there are countless experts in the divine union. This fellow's guts aren't ordinary. He actually had the guts to attack the people of the divine union. Where did Yi Shiwen come from? It's said that he isn't even 1,000 years old and is considered an outstanding talent of the younger generation. Such a person would probably be invincible even in the mysterious world battlefield. With such a profound death stage expert as an enemy, I'm afraid the people of the divine union will have a huge headache. According to the rumors, it didn't take long for Yi Shiwen's name to resound throughout the entire Xian world. Even the Xian world, which had many experts, had not reached such a stage where they could completely disregard a profound death realm expert. If it was said that profound life stage experts were the ordinary rulers of the profound world, then profound death stage experts were the true rulers of the profound world. Any one of these people could be said to be a top-notch existence, and it was not difficult for them to call themselves kings or ancestors. In fact, if he wasn't in the profound world, he could easily rule over several realms in any other world without any pressure. So far, such formidable existences were only those old seniors who had been famous for many years. There seemed to be few such existences among the younger generation. One could well imagine that Yi Shiwen was in the limelight this time. In the past, even if an unfamiliar profound death stage expert suddenly appeared, it would usually be a famous ancestor from another world who had entered the profound world. It was extremely rare to see someone as young as Yi Shiwen. Many people began to guess Yi Shiwen's identity, especially since Yi Shiwen had always been close to the martial sect. Many people even guessed that Yi Shiwen was one of the most outstanding disciples of the martial sect in this generation. As the immortal inheritance of the martial sect, which had once produced many emperors and deity-level experts, everyone knew the strength of the martial sect. Even those who didn't get along with them had no choice but to admit that the martial sect indeed had the ability to nurture such an outstanding person. However, they quickly eliminated this suspicion, as there was no movement from Director Wu's side. If he was really a disciple of the martial sect, they had no reason to deny it, and there was no need to deny it, even if they had completely offended the divine union. The divine union was merely the local tyrant of the profound world to the extremely powerful martial sect. Compared to the martial sect as a whole, the divine union paled in comparison. Who exactly was the disciple of such a person? Many people were guessing in disbelief. The divine union was about to become a laughingstock in the face of all these discussions. They were simply furious. Although they were powerful and revered by everyone, they couldn't control everyone's mouths. If everyone said the same thing, there was nothing they could do. Therefore, the best solution was to erase this fellow who had brought great shame to the divine union. Regardless of whether it was his spirit or his body, he had to be completely erased. This was the only way they could wash away the shame of the divine union. Very soon, the people of the divine union issued a wanted notice. Whoever could capture this audacious kid would be heavily rewarded by the divine union. Even if they only provided information, they would be able to obtain a huge reward. In the face of the rewards offered by the divine union, many people started to get restless. Although it would be difficult to deal with a profound death stage expert who could defeat 3 initial stage profound death stage experts, it was not impossible to kill him. If they could exchange his head for such a huge reward, it would be extremely attractive to many old freaks who had been in seclusion for many years. Profound death realm experts were only one step away from becoming deities. However, this step was like the difference between clouds and mud. If they wanted to take this step, they would not only need opportunities and inspiration. Most importantly, they would need a huge amount of resources to push them to a certain level. In an instant, the entire mysterious world was in turmoil. This could be said to be the most sensational matter so far. If there was anyone that could be compared to this matter, it would be Jun Dingtian. Once the news of the reincarnation of a deity from Jun Dingtian spread, the entire mysterious world was shocked. All along, there had been rumors that someone was actually the reincarnation of a deity. However, rumors were just rumors. Some people had even been exposed and found to be false. Hence, everyone had actually gotten used to such rumors over the years. To them, this merely proved that this person possessed extraordinary talent. However, it didn't mean that he was really the reincarnation of a deity. Otherwise, after so many years and with so many people having rumors about it, how many gods would have fallen to fill this gap? One look, and one could tell that this was impossible. Perhaps there really was a reincarnation of a deity among these mixed and fake rumors. However, they were all drowned out by the mixed and fake rumors. However, this was recognized by many people. It even alarmed the leaders of the major forces. This was especially so for the experts who aimed to prove their Tao and become a deity. This was simply unparalleled attraction. If they could capture it, not to mention inheriting a deity's legacy, just the experience of how this deity proved his Tao would be incomparably attractive. Although it was impossible to copy it completely, even using the process of a deity to prove his Tao would bring unimaginable benefits. To the leaders of the major forces that were only a step away from the half-step Tao confirming realm, it was simply crazy. It was very likely that they were lacking such an opportunity. Now that such an opportunity had come knocking on their door, how could they resist such temptation? As a result, many famous ones, some unknown ones, some active ones, some secluded ones, and some old monsters who were thought to have been dead for many years, all set out with only one goal, Jun Dingtian. No one would want to let go of such an existence. The reason why Yi Shiwen was able to escape and kill so many people was largely because of this incident. Many profound death realm experts who were originally waiting outside were transferred away to hunt down Jun Dingtian. This gave Yi Shiwen the opportunity to shock the entire Xian world. Yi Shiwen was not afraid of Jun Dingtian's death. He was not afraid of Jun Dingtian's death. Otherwise, with so many experts around, even Yi Shiwen would have no other way but to fight a bloody battle and escape. Ever since this news came out, it quickly became the headlines in the Xian world. As long as it was a certain level of experts, they would pay attention to this matter. In the face of the hope of becoming a deity, no one was willing to give up. Many old monsters who had not walked in the world for many years had come out one after another. For a time, many news that had been silent for many years had also come out along with the efforts of these old monsters. Many influential figures from 10,000 years ago, or even tens of thousands of years ago, had reappeared at this time, causing serious pressure to the experts of the current major forces. These old monsters from many years ago, even if they did not make a move, just by standing there, they had an incomparable deterrent force. They were almost invincible among those in the same realm. The accumulation of their skills had reached an incredible level of magic power. Everywhere, there were people who did not know better and offended these temperamental old monsters. There were often news of their sex being destroyed by these old monsters. In the Xian world, it could be said that everyone was panicking. At this time, many people truly understood that they were already the top experts in the Xian world. Now, it seemed that it was just an illusion created by these old monsters after they went into seclusion. Except for a few tyrannical experts, few people could face these old monsters without batting an eyelid. Fortunately, many experts in the Xian world breathed a sigh of relief. Soon, news came that Jun Dingtian had broken into the Xian world battlefield. It was said that his strength had increased by leaps and bounds. Who knew that this did not scare these old monsters away? Instead, these old monsters were even more convinced that he was the reincarnation of a deity. Many people could not wait to enter the Xian world battlefield. For a time, the Xian world battlefield was in chaos. Tyrannical old monsters of various clans were everywhere. For a time, the Xian world battlefield, which originally had a very low survival rate, became even more like a Shura hell. In a restaurant in the imperial capital of the Dark Nation, a man in a green robe was drinking while listening to the gossip and rumors from all over the Xian world. The corners of his mouth could not help but flash a smile. Chapter 1911. The news that he had massacred the Divine Union's experts spread like wildfire. The people of the Divine Union were indeed flustered and exasperated. They wished they could tear themselves to shreds. In fact, if Jun Dingtian hadn't taken some of the pressure off Yi Shiwen would have been hunted down by now. In their opinion, Jun Dingtian, who might be able to prove his Tao, was far more important than Yi Shiwen. After all, the Divine Union had just been established with the purpose of allowing their leader to prove his Tao. Anything related to this was a top priority. Even Yi Shiwen, who had committed heinous crimes in their eyes, had to be pushed to the back of the queue. However, this didn't mean that they would let Yi Shiwen off. Given the tyrannical power of the Divine Union, it would be very troublesome for Yi Shiwen to share even a small portion of his experience. Although he had advanced to the profound death stage, there were still quite a few people who could deal with him. Furthermore, the Divine Union had offered such a high price, which could be considered priceless. There would probably be many antiques who would be tempted. Even if only a fraction of them made a move, Yi Shiwen would still have to face an endless stream of attacks. Although he had used the aura restraining technique to change his aura and make himself look less outstanding, he would still be discovered sooner or later. Therefore, Yi Shiwen planned to escape to a place where he wouldn't be easily discovered by the people of the Divine Union. This time, he had once again come to the Nation of Darkness for Princess Tianqing. This cooperation could be considered mutually beneficial for both parties. Yi Shiwen had gained quite a bit, while Princess Tianqing had also gained quite a bit. In short, neither party had suffered a loss. He shouldn't have appeared in such a dangerous situation. However, he was still concerned about the information that Princess Tianqing had told him about the many seniors in the ancient Baron's continent. At this time, rather than searching aimlessly, he might as well ask Princess Tianqing for the information he wanted. As soon as he stepped into the capital of the Nation of Darkness, he felt a tyrannical aura sweep over him and sweep over his body. This hadn't happened before. Sure enough, the Divine Union had arranged for many experts to investigate this place. These spirit consciousnesses were very powerful, but the original spirit consciousnesses weren't as tyrannical. They were obviously scouting experts. Even ordinary profound death realm experts wouldn't be able to escape their detection. Unfortunately, they didn't expect that Yi Shiwen's restraining breath technique had already reached the acme of perfection and had reached the point of perfection. This wasn't something that ordinary people could see. Even these scouting experts couldn't see. Moreover, they never expected that Yi Shiwen would return to the Dark Nation's imperial capital in such a dangerous situation. Apart from the matter between him and Jun Dingtian, the most discussed topic in the entire Dark Kingdom was Princess Tianqing. After the incident in the Abyss of the Dead, Princess Tianqing had completely stood out from the crowd and even defeated the popular champions. She was directly designated as the Crown Prince by the monarch of the Dark Kingdom. If there were no accidents, she would become the monarch of the Dark Kingdom after a certain number of years. This was the first female ruler in the history of the Country of Darkness. To them, it could be said to be unprecedented. It could be said to be the first time since the beginning of the world. In the past, they had never thought that a woman could become the nation ruler. Although it was theoretically possible, because the previous nation rulers of the Nation of Darkness didn't prohibit women from participating in the competition for the position of emperor. In general, they would only play the role of accompanying the emperor. They wouldn't be too strong or attract too much attention. Who would have thought that this joke would actually become a reality? There was actually the first female nation ruler. Although she was only designated as emperor, everyone soon discovered that there was a reason why Princess Tianqing could become the first female nation ruler. Princess Tianqing, who had just returned to the imperial capital, didn't know how she managed to convince the nation ruler. As a result, she was quickly designated as emperor. This naturally caused many people, especially the popular princes, to rebel. However, their rebellion was futile. Not long ago, the princes joined forces to launch a coup and even implicated the experts and forces of the major sects in the Nation of Darkness. Such a force was enough to subvert the entire country of darkness. Over the years, due to the connivance of the ruler of the country of darkness, the princes had long penetrated into all aspects of the country of darkness and grasped more or less the army. Moreover, with the support of the major sects, it was enough to subvert the entire situation of the Nation of Darkness overnight. But even the ruler of the country of darkness had to be afraid of such a force, and operation failed in a single night. All the rebellious princes were beheaded in an instant, including their trusted aides and even the members of the major sects who dared to participate in the rebellion. All of them were beheaded. That night was known as the Bloody Night Coup. As a result, all the princes, their trusted aides, and their families were all slaughtered. That night, blood flowed like a river. Just in the imperial capital alone, nearly 1 million people were beheaded. All of them were the princes who participated in the war, as well as the nobles who had attached themselves to them, as well as their trusted aides. In a single night, the country of darkness had changed. The citizens were all trembling with fear. Fortunately, Princess Tianqing was ruthless and efficient. Before these people could cause chaos, they were all slaughtered. The gangsters who dared to wander on the main road were slaughtered in this turmoil. There was no mercy at all. This made the security of the entire imperial capital clear. After that night, everyone realized that Princess Tianqing's faction had rapidly occupied the highest positions in the imperial court. Of course, there weren't many people in Princess Tianqing's faction at first, but it didn't matter. After all the princes who could side with her had been killed. The remaining neutral faction had no other choice but to side with Princess Tianqing. As for the nearly 80% vacancy in the imperial court, it wasn't a problem. In any world, in any era, there would be no lack of people who wanted to climb up. Whether it was the human race, the demon race, or other races, it was the same. There were even rumors that Princess Tianqing had placed the current king of the Nation of Darkness under house arrest. Now, she was in charge of the imperial court with the identity of the regent. Under such a chaotic situation, all kinds of rumors were spread all at once. Some people said that this was simply what the king of the Nation of Darkness had been planning for a long time. Some people said that it was the result of Princess Tianqing's long planning. Some people even said that they saw with their own eyes that Princess Tianqing personally made a move. Under the siege of the experts of the major sects, she killed all of them one by one. There were even rumors that some people saw a spatial passage opening outside the imperial capital. The direction of the passage was the legendary demon realm. Many experts of the Azura clan rushed out of the demon realm to help Princess Tianqing quell the rebellion. Many of the rumors were very convincing, and some of them were very convincing. However, these rumors had been submerged in countless rumors. No one had any way to verify the authenticity of these rumors. They could only rely on their own perception to judge. Yi Shiwen narrowed his eyes. He hadn't expected that Princess Tianqing would be able to accomplish such a big feat, even though she had only returned a little earlier than him. It was truly a big move. The political situation of the entire country was under her control. She could do anything she wanted. Such a method was really amazing. However, there was nothing to be surprised about. Princess Tianqing had already stepped into the peak of the profound life stage long ago. In fact, it would not be strange for her to step into the profound death stage once she completely absorbed the power. Such strength was enough to sweep the entire Nation of Darkness. As far as he knew, the High Priest of the Nation of Darkness was only an expert of the late profound life realm. The other experts were only at the early profound life realm. Therefore, even the outer sect elders of the major sects didn't put the Nation of Darkness in their eyes. If it weren't for the major sects restraining each other, the Nation of Darkness would have been completely annihilated. With Princess Tianqing's strength and skill, she could easily quell any rebellion. In this world, strength was respected. An expert at the peak of the profound life realm was enough to establish a country like the Nation of Darkness. quelling a mere rebellion was nothing. The only troublesome thing was the experts of the major sections. They were extremely troublesome because they had the backing of the major sections. They couldn't fight or provoke the major sections. However, looking at Princess Tianqing's ruthless methods, it seemed that she had a backup plan. After all, she was different from a rogue like him. Yi Shiwen was a rogue. He didn't fear encirclement at all. Although he couldn't make use of the huge forces like the major sects, he still had the ease and freedom that the major sects didn't have. In that case, it might be true that many experts of the Azura clan had appeared to help quell the rebellion. After all, didn't Princess Tianqing have the bloodline of the Azura clan? If she had the support of her mother's clan, then it was possible to ignore the major sections. As a terrifying clan that had produced many emperor lords and undying experts, the Azura clan was not an ordinary force that could be compared to them, even though they had suffered several blows. However, if that was the case, then there might be some twists and turns in the future. He and Princess Tianqing had a very pleasant cooperation, but it was also possible that they would walk on opposite sides because of this. There was no possibility of a buffer between him and the Abyss Demon Master. Only by destroying the other party could there be a possibility of stopping. Thinking of this, he couldn't sit still anymore. With a flash of golden light, he disappeared from the restaurant. Chapter 1912. When Yi Shiwen appeared again, he was already in Princess Tianqing's residence. She was different from the little princess of the past. Now, Princess Tianqing had become the crown prince of the Dark Country. Her status was different. It could be said that there was an endless stream of horses and carriages in front of the door. There was a long line of people who came to visit her. After some time, Princess Tianqing would move into the Eastern Palace and become half the master of this country. In the near future, she would become the only master of this country. At that time, it would not be so easy to visit her again. When Yi Shiwen appeared, he immediately attracted the attention of these people who came to visit. They saw him striding inside and suddenly felt some disdain. They didn't know where this bumpkin came from. Didn't he see that these high-ranking ministers were waiting here for an audience? This kid actually dared to rashly go in. He really didn't know what he was doing. Who is this person? Doesn't he know to wait first? This person is crazy. Looking at his bearing, it seems that he is a descendant of a noble. However, he probably thinks that Her Royal Highness is an insignificant princess in the past. He wants to go in casually and ask for an audience? Ridiculous. He is really overestimating himself. Let's see how he will be forked out later. Everyone was talking about it. It seemed that they could see Yi Shiwen's unlucky appearance in the next second. This would more or less alleviate the embarrassment of waiting here and not being able to get an audience. There were even a few people who intended to come forward on behalf of Princess Tianqing to teach this blind guy a lesson. However, they soon opened their eyes wide. They were surprised to find that this carefree young man actually walked straight in. Not only was he not forked out by the guards of the princess residence, but on the contrary, these arrogant guys actually nodded and bowed in front of them like old servants. Their eyeballs almost popped out. This what the hell is going on? Especially the personal female official of Princess Tianqing. It was said that she was the confidant of Princess Tianqing. She was usually arrogant. The ministers of the imperial court were like beggars on the street to her. She wouldn't even look at them. However, she actually showed a pleasant expression towards this young man. It was as if they had seen a ghost. For them, seeing her smile was the same as seeing a ghost. Gongzi Yi, there has been no news of you during this period of time. Her Royal Highness is also very worried, the female official said with a smile. Her arrogance was only shown to ordinary people, but this person was not an ordinary person. Not to mention the undeserved title of the #1 consecrator of the Princess Mansion. His own strength was probably very tyrannical. She naturally knew more about her identity than most people. She had offended a colossus like the Divine Union to such an extent, yet she was still alive and well. Didn't this mean that she possessed tyrannical strength? Yi Shiwen just smiled and said, I heard that she seems to have done something extraordinary recently. Now, she finally has the entire power of the country in her hands. The female official smiled and didn't say anything. Yi Shiwen could casually talk about Lord's matters, but it didn't mean that she could also casually talk about it. That was simply courting death. However, young Master Yi, it's better to come at the right time than to come early. In a few days, Her Highness will be going on a long journey. If young Master comes to play for a few more days, I'm afraid you won't be able to find Her Highness. The female official said. Going out? Where is she going? Yi Shiwen felt a bit strange. He had originally thought that Princess Tianqing wouldn't leave in the next few years. After all, she had just taken control of the country of darkness and had yet to pacify it. There were too many variables. This I also don't know. When the time comes, young Master Yi can personally ask Her Highness. The female official glanced at Yi Shiwen and said. Yi Shiwen didn't ask much and directly followed the female official into the inner hall. Finally, he saw Princess Tianqing. However, it was slightly different from what he had imagined. He had originally thought that Princess Tianqing would be very busy, but now she was very leisurely. At least, he hadn't imagined that there would be a scene of official documents everywhere. However, after thinking about it, he felt that this was very normal. The first thing that a superior had to learn was the way of governing. If everything was done by the superior, then what was the point of having subordinates? He strode in, cupped his hands, and said with a smile, Haha, congratulations. Congratulations on fulfilling Her Highness' great wish. Yi Shiwen, why are you so polite? Most of what I have today is thanks to you. If it weren't for you, I'm afraid that my son would have died a long time ago, said Princess Tianqing with a smile. She directly called Yi Shiwen's name, which seemed to be a lot more intimate. This wasn't the kind of intimacy that was pretentiously trying to rope him in. Instead, it was the intimacy that she felt towards this companion who had gone through life and death together after the trip to the undead abyss. Yi Shiwen knew that she was talking about Yi Mo's martial technique. However, that was Yi Mo's business and had nothing to do with him. At this time, he was too lazy to argue about such things. The two of us are just mutually benefiting each other. Yi Shiwen waved his hand and said. He sat down on the first seat on the left. I came to find you today. Presumably, you should also know my goal. Yi Shiwen, you still can't let go of the ancient Baron's mainland. Sigh. It's a pity that a person like you is like a dragon trapped in a shallow pool in the ancient Baron's mainland. If you could let go of the ancient Baron's mainland, you might even be able to show your strength in the Xian world. Presumably, these things wouldn't be a problem at all, said Princess Tianqing with a sigh. Speaking of which, although she had used this information to keep Yi Shiwen in suspense, she didn't expect him to be so persistent. Perhaps this was the biggest difference between him and others. Others wouldn't be able to see such a situation no matter what. For me, the Eternal Barons is just a fixed goal. However, there are many things that are more important than this. Even if I have to sacrifice my life for it, I won't hesitate, said Yi Shiwen firmly. This was his belief. This was the belief that he had persisted for hundreds of years. If he were to give up, it would be equivalent to falling short of success. His martial technique would regress overnight, and he might even self-destruct in an instant. Good, well said. Yi Shiwen, to be honest, I've seen too many men. However, it's rare to see someone like you. Perhaps the reason why you could reach where you are today is because you're different from others, said Princess Tianqing. Since you want to know so much, I won't beat around the bush. I'll tell you directly. I think you already know about the rumors about the Xian world. Yes. Yi Shiwen nodded. He had already heard many rumors about the Xian world. He was no longer ignorant like before. The Xian world was originally a high-level world. In essence, it wasn't even comparable to the ancient barons, Devil World, and other big worlds. It became famous in the late ancient times. Even the experts of the divine realm were hard to find. Later on, the news gradually spread that the Xian world contained the secrets of the divine realm. This attracted many Xian realm experts and slowly formed the current Xian world. Experts from the ancient barons always came to the Xian world. At that time, the ancient barons was still called the demon realm. It was conquered by the demon emperor a long time ago. Later on, the demon race retreated from the heaven realm and developed in the demon realm. After that, they flourished for a long time. There are also many people from the ancient barons in the Xian world. Princess Tianqing said, due to their former strength, the people of the ancient demon realm have a huge influence in the northern part of the Xian world, especially the demon race. They are the rulers of that area. Many monstrous experts that have not appeared for many years are hiding there. No one knows how many experts there are. Even the great sects are very afraid of them. Princess Tianqing said slowly. Yi Shiwen didn't expect the people from the ancient barons to have such a huge influence in the Xian world. However, it was the demon race and not the human race. To him, this wasn't good news. Although the demon race was much more well-behaved now, they were still the second biggest enemy after the demon race. As for the human race from the ancient barons, they have established a force in the northern part of the Xian world called the Sages Valley. They live in groups of 3 to 5. However, it is said that the demon race has been suppressing the Sages Valley. Life isn't easy. If you want to find the human race from the ancient barons, you should go to the Sages Valley to look for them. Princess Tianqing looked at Yi Shiwen and said, the Sages Valley is very far away from us. Our nation of darkness is located at the southern end of the Xian world. It is very remote. Due to the undead soul abyss, it is a very important location. The demon race's nation and the Sages Valley are very far north. If you want to go there, you will have to travel through the entire Xian world. Thank you for the information. Yi Shiwen smiled. He wasn't defeated by the difficulty in front of him. With the information, the rest would be much simpler. The most important thing now was to go to the northern part of the Xian world and find the seniors who came from the ancient Barons continent in the Sages Valley. He would bring them back so that the human race from the ancient Barons continent could be saved. Suddenly, he thought of another question. He asked, I heard that you were planning to go out? May I ask, why would you choose to go out at this time? This is not good for the Empire's control. Princess Tianqing didn't find it strange that Yi Shiwen knew about it. Instead, she said, there is nothing to hide. The Empire is now completely under my control. There is nothing to be afraid of. I have already handed the matters over to my subordinates. I have nothing to do. I will go to the Xian World battlefield in a few days. Princess Tianqing said. Yi Shiwen spat out a few words. Chapter 1913. The Profound World Battlefield. These words suddenly flashed in Yi Shiwen's mind. In fact, even before entering the Profound World, he had already heard of the Profound World Battlefield more than once. It was the core of the entire Profound World. It was said that in the distant past, a legendary battle had taken place there. As a result, this battlefield was left behind, and it was said that it contained secrets related to the Tao of Gods. All along, there had been people who had made great discoveries in it, and there were also people who had become gods. In this current era where the immortal realm's inheritance had almost been severed, even a little bit of hope was enough to make everyone go crazy. Not to mention, this was a solid hope. Therefore, there had always been no lack of experts in the Profound World battlefield. If the Profound World was said to be a gathering place for the elites of the various worlds, then the Profound World battlefield was where the majority of the elites of the Profound World were gathered. One could imagine how dangerous it was. Even the invincible experts of the King Division, who could be called experts in their respective worlds, could only play around in the periphery of the Profound World battlefield, picking up the leftovers or the ones that were missed. But even so, those who could escape from the Profound World battlefield unscathed were all elites, which was a commendable asset in the outside world. There were even unimaginable, immemorial, ominous beasts inside, and even some peerless experts had suffered miserably inside. No one knew what was inside. Even Profound Death Realm experts wouldn't dare to say that they were invincible inside and could only protect themselves. As for experts below Profound Death Realm, it could even be said that they were in a precarious situation. The deeper one went, the more terrifying the experts would be. It could even be said that the reputation of the Profound World was mostly based on the Profound World battlefield. Because of the Profound World battlefield, it was able to continuously attract experts from the various worlds and form the Profound World. You will soon receive this news. so I might as well tell you in advance. Have you heard of the Nameless Tao Academy? Princess Tianqing asked. Nameless Tao Academy? What's that? Yi Shiwen asked curiously. It's an academy hidden very deeply in the profound world. It can even be said that it is the largest colossus in the entire profound world, surpassing many forces. Princess Tianqing said. Impossible. These three words suddenly appeared in Yi Shiwen's mind. If there really was such a colossus, how could he not have heard of it? However, he quickly reacted. Since Princess Tianqing said so, there must be some inside information that he wasn't aware of. Princess Tianqing continued. No one knows when the Nameless Tao College existed. It's said that it existed a long, long time ago, even longer than the history of the mystic world. It has been passed down to this day, and its foundations are unparalleled. Other than the disciples who do not come out into the world, just the disciples who do come out into the world are incomparably glorious, forming a large portion of the mystic world's history. This is because even the most mediocre of his disciples have become great figures in the mystic world. Do you know the leader of the Divine Alliance? He's a disciple of the Nameless Tao College. 5,000 years ago, when the Nameless Tao College opened, he was the most talented one among them, invincible among his peers. In the end, he founded the Divine Alliance. Princess Tianqing looked at Yi Shiwen with a faint smile on her face. For ordinary people, this was just an addition to the glory of the Nameless Tao Academy. However, it was different for Yi Shiwen. It could be said that Yi Shiwen had already offended the Divine Union, so the probability of reconciliation in the future wasn't very high. One day in the future, Yi Shiwen would inevitably have to face the leader of the Divine Union. This news was extremely important to him. As for whether Yi Shiwen would die prematurely, she didn't know why, but she inexplicably felt that this man definitely wouldn't be defeated halfway. Just as Princess Tianqing had guessed, Yi Shiwen's heart tightened. He could clash with the Divine Union without hesitation, but that didn't mean that he would ignore the Divine Union's leader. The man who had single-handedly brought the Divine Union to its current heights was considered by many people to be the #1 person in the entire mysterious world. With such a person as his enemy, the pressure in his heart couldn't be said to be small. Naturally, in the hearts of most people, Yi Shiwen was nothing compared to the Divine Union's leader. Even though he had slaughtered 3 early-stage profound death realm experts and made a name for himself, compared to the Divine Union's leader, who had been famous for thousands of years, it was still like comparing an ant to a giant, regardless of whether it was in terms of fame or strength. The Divine Union's leader, who was known as the #1 person in the mysterious world, was also known as the person closest to a god. In recent years, he was also the only person who was believed to have a chance of proving his Tao. It was practically a done deal, and all he needed was time. Based on everyone's impression of him, it could be seen how powerful the #1 person in the mysterious world was. Even though he had already entered the profound death realm, he still didn't have the slightest chance of winning against the Divine Union's leader. In fact, he didn't even know who was stronger between the Divine Union's leader and the Abyssal Demon Master. Both of their realms were far above his. There was no need to doubt the Divine Union's leader's strength. However, such a person was merely a genius from the Nameless Tao College. One could imagine how powerful the Nameless Tao College was. No wonder Princess Tianqing had said that the Nameless Tao College would be the largest force in the entire mysterious world. If the disciples they recruited were all like this, it wouldn't be strange for them to be the strongest. However, this Nameless Tao College is so famous. Why have I never heard of it before? Yi Shiwen asked. That's because the Nameless Tao College only opens once every 5,000 years. Every time it appears, it will recruit the strongest group of youngsters. This time, the Nameless Tao College is about to open, and its location is the deepest part of the mysterious world battlefield. I've already received a notice from my clan, and I'm now rushing to the Nameless Tao College. You'll also receive the news very soon. Every time the Nameless Tao College opens, the mysterious world will be shaken. With your talent, it should be possible for you to enter. Princess Tianqing looked at Yi Shiwen and said, "Tsk Tisk, you've actually entered the profound death realm. so quickly. However, that's still far from enough. If there aren't any special circumstances, you can forget about contending against them within 1,000 years. However, I'm afraid it'll be too late by then. Thank you for the information. Yi Shiwen cupped his hands and said. Yi Shiwen bade farewell to Princess Tianqing. He had obtained too much information from this meeting with Princess Tianqing, so he needed some time to digest it. This was indeed an extremely important opportunity for him. Currently, he had already stepped into the profound death stage. However, after stepping into this stage, he increasingly felt that it would be increasingly difficult to raise his strength after reaching this stage. Every realm was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. He had already used many tricks, but it was still the same. It was obvious that many people had been stuck at this realm for thousands or even tens of thousands of years. However, if he could borrow the power of the Nameless Tao College, his strength would definitely increase rapidly. Only then would he be able to contend against the Abyssal Demon Master, the leader of the Divine Union, and the others in a short period of time. He told Yemo about this idea, and Yemo also agreed to let him head to the Nameless Tao College to take a look. As for the matter of finding the ancient desolate Ian, it could be carried out at the same time. Indeed, just as Princess Tianqing had said, in less than half a month, the incident at the Nameless Tao Academy suddenly spread like a tsunami, instantly spreading throughout the entire profound world. It seemed like even the commoners at the bottom of the hierarchy knew about the Nameless Tao College in an instant. Over the course of thousands of years, the Nameless Tao College seemed to disappear from everyone's eyes as time passed. However, it seemed as if all the memories had been awakened overnight. Many old monsters who had been in slumber for many years suddenly woke up and began to discuss the matter of the Nameless Tao College. Everything about the Nameless Tao College was also dug out as time passed. It was as if the memories that had been dormant in the deepest recesses of their minds had suddenly erupted. In an instant, a lot of news about the Nameless Tao College spread. At this time, many people suddenly realized that there were actually so many experts from the Nameless Tao College. Many famous people had come from the Nameless Tao College in the past. Even the leader of the Divine Union, who was the #1 person in the mysterious world, had come from the Nameless Tao College in the past. He had even been the #1 person among the students of the Nameless Tao College back then. After that, he had established the Divine Union in just a few thousand years and developed the Divine Union to this day. In an instant, the matter of the Nameless Tao College overshadowed the matter of Yi Shiwen and Jun Dingtian, which had originally been at the heart of the struggle. It became the most discussed topic. Yi Shiwen had merely offended the Divine Union, and Jun Dingtian was merely the reincarnation of a god. This couldn't even be compared to the opening of the Nameless Tao College. The Nameless Tao College had nurtured more than 1 or 2 gods. Most importantly, there was only one Jun Dingtian, but the Nameless Tao College could accept hundreds of people to enroll. Yes, the Nameless Tao College could accept hundreds of people, and these people were also the most outstanding people of this era. Each time, it would only be a little, but it would never be a lot. Every time the Nameless Tao College opened, it would last for 10 years. During these 10 years, these hundreds of people would often improve by leaps and bounds. They would grow from outstanding people of the younger generation to existences like the pillars of the mysterious world. Moreover, every time the Nameless Tao College opened, it would send out 20 invitation cards in advance. These 20 people would be able to enter the college without having to take the entrance test and could directly go to the Nameless Tao College with the invitation card. Every time, the list of 20 people would become the focus of attention. It was the same this time. Countless people were paying attention to who would receive these 20 invitation cards. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.